Chapter 721. Recognize Your Own Power, 9th More. While Jiraiya is still here, Gongyi and Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, have collided with each other. Two completely disproportionate, and let people feel the fist of discord, immediately. Stagnated in midair. With Geto Mazo's demonic statue of the outer path, giant punch, Gongyi's blow is very small. Normal people can understand that this is a completely unequal duel. Just when someone thought of this, it was not the case. Boom! The next second, the sky and the earth shook. An invisible shock wave burst out from the fists of Gongyi and Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Out! They all started to spread around, hanging out at an extremely fast speed. This rippling coercion, like a tyrannical force, destroys the earth once again. Countless rubble scattered all around in an instant, and Jiraiya, biting Kiba here, couldn't help but retreat again. Hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of meters were all affected one after another. And Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in front of Gongyi, it also began to retract its arms. There was only Gongyi all around, and he was still there, standing still, unaffected in the slightest. The blue steam of the 8 inner gates burst out, enveloping Gongyi inside. Now the people outside can't see at all what kind of expression he has. However, through the confrontation between the two just now, it is clear at a glance which is stronger and which is weaker. The huge Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, it can't compete with Gongyi at all. How is this possible? Nagato stood above the head of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, looking at everything just now, with shock on his face. Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, that's the 10 tails husk. And for now, it's absorbing the chakra power of so many tailed beasts. Therefore, how powerful it is, how could Nagato not know not to see that it has not been fully resurrected, and has not transformed into a real 10 tails. However, the Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, so far is enough to stop the entire ninja continent. It's impossible for any ninja to stop it. But now, the attack of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, just now was easily resisted by the 5 generations of Hokage in front of him. It should be said that Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is in turn passive. Of the pair of fists just now, it wasn't Gongyi who suffered the loss. It was me. Alright, it seems that the rumored Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is not too tyrannical. Standing below, Gongyi curled his lips into a smile. He slowly retracted his arm and couldn't help muttering to himself. Through just a simple confrontation, Gongyi also roughly guessed the true power of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. I saw that at this moment, it was like, on the top of the dead wood, there were dense cracks all over it. Obviously, this punch, for the damage it creates, is very huge. Well, Gongyi didn't think at this moment that he could smash the head of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in an instant. That's an impossible thing. From the very beginning, Gongyi. No, the outer shell is not as fragile as it looks. In fact, as the body of 10 tails, it is very sturdy, and it is not easy for ordinary people to touch. Even if Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is standing here at this moment and asking you to attack, there is a good chance that it will not be able to shake it. It is estimated that there are tens of thousands of ninjas, and it is very difficult for them to give Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, the body and destroy it like Gongyi's punch. It seems that the master has acquired the power of 10 tails, and the enhancement of his normal state has been upgraded to a qualitative leap. Gongyi looked down at his palm. There was no damage at all, and it was still extremely clean. This simple confrontation just now looked very ordinary in the eyes of ordinary people. But only Gongyi knows, that's not the case. It is estimated that if I put it before, I have not become a 10 tails Jinchuriki column force. Although it is possible to take a blow like Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, it is not very comfortable. But now it's different, he doesn't seem to have any influence at all, instead he has caused Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, a lot of damage. Unconsciously, Gongyi has begun to realize that he underestimated the power of 10 tails. It brings to me seem not to be the ones I realize. Well, after this blow just now, Gongyi has a better understanding of his own power. Who? Gongyi looked up at Nagato standing above the head of Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and sneered. It seems that your so-called divine power is not that strong. Really? At this time, Nagato, who had come to his senses from the horror before, had a frosty expression on his face. To say that he already had the idea of killing Gongyi before, now Nagato has decided. No matter what, he will kill the 5th Hokage of this Konoha village. He is a little too strong, and Nagato seems a little unpredictable. Before, he still had confidence and could easily obliterate the 5 generations of Hokage in front of him. It's going to work, but he doesn't continue to think so. Because he felt that all this was not what he thought at all. Mind, Nagato's face showed endless killing intent towards Gongyi. Today, Gongyi must not be allowed to leave, it will definitely be a nuisance for raising tigers in the future. He naturally didn't know that Gongyi came here today to kill him, and Nagato couldn't help but think a lot. Next second. When Nagato seemed to have made a decision, he immediately imprint with both hands. Death to me, you disgusting mortal. As Nagato's voice just fell, his whole face seemed to pale a lot. And that very thin body, at this moment, slumped again. The just straight waist seemed to be bent a lot, and the pair of Rinnegan surged with endless power. Was shocking enough to amaze everyone. There was a loud rumbling sound, and while Nagato was frantically gathering chakra, Getomazo's demonic statue of the outer path fist, which had just been cracked, had recovered. And its eyes began to slowly open. 1, 2, 3. Until the 6th one was opened, the mouth that was just closed immediately open. Roar. An earth-shattering roar came out, and an invisible force rippled out and swept all around. Everything that just stopped, they were scraped and flew to both sides again. The entire 10,000 miles, only Gongyi stood still and stood there quietly. Boom, boom. 2 huge arms slap the ground and Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, it starts to stand up. Had only a half body just now, and now long legs of dead wood began to appear under it. Bird, Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is like a demon crawling out of hell, with his entire lower body appearing underground. This moment, the entire complete form completely appeared in front of Gongyi's eyes. Chapter 722. Jiraiya's Shame 10th more. Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, has stood up. It is huge, like a giant standing in the sky. Whole body is still like dead wood, but from a distance, it looks like it is wearing a huge wooden robe. The 6 open eyes are now looking at Gongyi, Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, with a ferocious face, making everyone tremble with fear. Omegakures who were staying outside the Omegakure village all began to fall to the ground. His face was pale and his back was wet with cold sweat. Looking at the towering Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in front of them, they were completely messed up by this sweeping coercion. The whole area of Omegakure village seemed to be in a panic. Especially in the surrounding jungle, those birds and beasts all began to tremble, not daring to move. Even if there are enough deadly natural enemies beside them, the same is true. The power of Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path, has been like an invisible towering mountain, pressing down on everyone's back. Strange monster. Pointing ahead, one of the Omegakure village genin kept retreating. What the hell? What kind of thing is this? Omegakure Jonin on the other side, with his mouth wide open, also stared at Getomazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Captain, let's get out of here. It's so terrifying, I feel like the whole person is going to die. Quote. At this time, the ninjas of Omegakure village one after another were running towards the back. By the time Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, was fully revealed, their minds would have gone blank. What Lord Pain, what God, what this and that thing, they have long since left behind. At the moment was to get out of here. Although every ninja in a Megakure village knew that the Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in front of them was not aimed at them. However, now every ninja in a Megakure village just looks at him, enough to feel a kind of heart, the feeling of being killed. That's the horror of Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and that's the horror of being a Ten-Tails. Just the sight of these ninjas is enough to scare them. Although Gong Yi is not afraid of it at all. But it doesn't mean the rest, they are all the same as Gong Yi. Given the conventional tailed beasts, they were already very shaken and frightened. Not to mention, the Ten-Tails body in full form now, that's all the more so. The violence, despair, killing, darkness, etc. released from it, breath, made a group of ninjas not only uncomfortable. If it goes on like this for a while, they feel that it will all happen immediately. Inner riot, and then kill each other and die. This kind of thing is also Rinnegan's. Jiraiya, who has left the area of a Megakure village, is also staring straight ahead. Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, gave Jiraiya, and it was equally as shocking as the rest. Gong Yi didn't tell Jiraiya about the outsiders. At the same time, about the secret of Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, Jiraiya doesn't even know. Today, it should be the first time Jiraiya sees Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, the Ten-Tails husk. Eyes were dazed, his face was pale, and Jiraiya's heart was gloomy. Even though it was him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. It seems that such a power made him unconsciously reveal an irresistible feeling. Rinnegan really deserves to be the legendary pupil technique, and can actually create so many magical ninjutsu. Jiraiya was amazed inwardly and had to admit one thing. Well, without Gong Yi today, it seems that he would not even have the chance to leave. Carefully recalling the original events in her mind, Jiraiya was even a little bit overwhelmed. Bragging sarcasm. At the beginning, he even patted the chest with the 5th-generation Hokage to assure that there would be absolutely no problem, and no one would be able to leave him. Now when he thinks of this, Jiraiya feels yuhi on his face, and feels very embarrassed. This kind of thing, like a frog in a well-made Jiraiya, feel a little bit of shame. My own strength is still too weak, and it is far from being able to touch the core that Gong Yi understands. Hehe, it seems that this is your confidence. At the same time, Gong Yi, who was standing still in the field, smiled and said lightly. Now the Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in front of him is already huge, and Gong Yi is really standing underneath like an ant at the moment. The huge body covered the moonlight, and in the whole dark night, it was like a demon crawling out of hell, making people feel so terrifying. The power of God is always beyond your comprehension. The weak Nagato lowered his head and looked at Gong Yi below. Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is dozens of stories high, and Nagato looks down at him like a small black spot. However, as far as Rinnegan's pupil power is concerned, Nagato can still see him clearly. If this is the power of God, I really can't agree. Shaking his head and looking at Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, Gong Yi smiled sarcastically, because it's not enough for me. But it's not enough. If you don't experience despair, you won't recognize mistakes if you are arrogant. Nagato immediately at this time didn't put his hand down, just listen to him immediately. Shouted, Outlaw Chakralong. Hula. At this time, Nagato's voice just fell, and Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, spoke immediately. Spit out pieces of blue chakra. 3 They gushed endlessly, like a mass, and began to continuously condense in the air. Immediately afterwards, a blue dragon can be seen, and it has appeared. A pair of yuhi-colored eyes glowed brightly, and after circling in the air, it immediately turned towards Gong Yi. Dive down. If this is your trump card, then I'm really a little disappointed. Gong Yi raised his head and watched the blue chakra swooping down. Was still no negative emotion on his handsome face. It seems that no matter what it is, Gong Yi can't show any fear now. Ninjutsu is a form of chakra created by Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Once a normal ninja is touched by this giant dragon, the chakra all over his body will immediately. If the light is absorbed, the whole person will die instantly. Looking up at the chakra dragon that has come before him, Gong Yi's mind has long been about its abilities. Clearly remember that Nagato should have been used in front of Hanzo of the Salamander, killing many of his ninjas. However, this thing may have a miraculous effect on ordinary ninjas, but for me, it is just a waste of chakra. Senpo, Sage Art Xuanwang Big Hand. One-handed seal, Gong Yi whispered. I made up for yesterday's work. I am exhausted. I took a break to read the underlined version of the novel, EPUB. Chapter 723. Battle the full-body Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Senpo, Sage Art Xuanwang Big Hand. Gong Yi's voice just fell, and the towering giant palm appeared behind him. A palm suppresses all things, blocks space, and makes people unable to escape. With a sharp sound, it seemed to be about to destroy everything in the world in the palm of its hand. At the moment of lightning, when the blue chakra dragon spit out from the outsider swooped and fell, the big hand of Xuanwang fell violently with an unstoppable. Unstoppable at all. When this blue chakra dragon didn't even react, the big black-yellow hand had already come to the top of it. Boom! When it fell, an earth-shattering voice resounded through the sky, echoing around. And the chakra dragon just now was shot and collapsed in an instant, and everything that was smashed disappeared. Just breathing, Gong Yi didn't leave here. Sanagato's outsider ninjutsu was destroyed again. Okay, let's end this boring fight quickly. At this time, when all the dust came to an end, Gong Yi did not let go of Lin's hand. At this moment, he quietly looked at the long gate above, and outlined a smile. It seems that this has been a long-lasting battle, and it has also drained Gong Yi's patience. Although it hasn't really been a long time now, it has been a long time for Gong Yi. Now that he has a preliminary understanding of his current strength, he decided to end the battle immediately. Rid of Nagato first, so as to prevent the knight from dreaming too much, and then my plan will be deviated. Thinking of this, Gong Yi immediately. Drink lightly. Senpo, Sage Art Inorganic Reincarnation. Om. A chakra power of Sage Art exclusively for Gong Yi, and they gushes out wildly. Immediately afterwards, the ground of the entire Omegakure village began to shake at the foot of Gong Yi, at the foot of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. The next second was the power of the earth shaking and the mountains shaking, and all the gravel began to rise gradually. Terrifying than the Chibaku Tensai, heavenly body bursting from the earth, that Nagato just released, they rise extremely fast. And everything on the ground, they are gradually converging. A loud bang came out, and the ground beneath Gong Yi's feet sank into a few meters again, turning into an even more terrifying deep pit. When Gong Yi released this ninjutsu, he was so powerful that it seemed like he was going to tear down the entire Omegakure village. Didn't take long, they started to condense behind Gong Yi. Inorganic reincarnation, the transformation of lifeless things can be endowed with short-lived life force. Hurrah! At this time, the ninjas of Omegakure village who had not had time to leave, couldn't help but exclaimed again. Even his Jiraiya, his eyes widened, couldn't help showing a kind of disbelief. I saw that behind Gong Yi at this moment, the countless numbers had formed a towering giant. And the entire Omegakure village was turned into a deep pit and was deprived of it. Those rubble seems to be alive, not intertwined. The loud noise of bang bang kept coming out, and they began to combine together. Pieces of rubble, they spread upward, forming a very surprising sight. As time passed, the entire body of the giant appeared, the arms appeared, the head appeared. In just a moment, a huge stone giant, fully formed. It looked extremely strong, standing tall, and Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, face to face. Now the stone giant made by Gongyi, it is not weaker than Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. No matter what size, no matter how tall, no matter what it is. All of them can stand up against each other, even a little bit suppressed. Shocking, majestic, amazing enough. Everything you have is in vain. Looking at the giant stone giant standing in front of him, Nagato snorted immediately. Hand seal again. Outlaw chains. Now that Gongyi wants to end the fight quickly, Nagato still does. And now Nagato, he is more urgent than Gongyi. Because of this skill, the amount of chakra or vitality he consumes is huge. If it continues like this, then it is very likely that what awaits you is death. Well, so Nagato wants to end this battle quickly, rather than drag it out here forever. The situation after that will only make Nagato gradually become passive. Gongyi in front of him to not be killed, but to be devoured by Rinnegan first and die. If such an ending really happened, it would be too much of a joke. Self-proclaimed God himself, if the curtain ends in this way, is completely unacceptable to him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Chains spit out from the mouth of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and they all start heading towards the stone giant. Can be vaguely perceived that these dozens of chains also carry the power of sealing. Nagato, you are still so innocent. Looking at Nagato, who wanted to take the lead in defeating the giant of stone, Gongyi shook his head and sneered. The next second, he immediately dodged, and when he appeared, he had already arrived at the top of the stone giant's head. At this moment, the two looked at each other from a distance and could clearly see each other. Whether it is Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, or the stone giants, they are all very tall. Can be felt that there are still clouds floating around. And the moon is fixed on the head, and it shines with a long white glow. The final confrontation seems to be on the verge of breaking out. Swish swish chains with the sound of breaking the sky, they have come to the front. Golden escape armor. But, in an instant, Gongyi immediately. Raise your hand towards the front and drink lightly. With a hum, a dazzling golden light burst out immediately. That had just been darkened was once again bathed in a golden ocean. Everyone who is watching the game, they are all holding their breath in the distance, watching all this in the field. A golden light, it was ready to appear between Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, and the stone giant. Immediately afterwards, you can see that they are actually immediately shrouded in the body of the giant stone. Soon, when the illusory flying light dissipated, they all condensed into solid golden armor. Like a huge golden warrior, like a general Guy wins. The armor like Susanoo completely covers the giant of stone. After the mask of the armor was closed, the pair of Yuhi eyes of the stone giant shone brightly. Today, it seems to have completely changed its momentum, making people feel extremely oppressive. Ding ding dang 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 dang. After the golden dung armor covered the stone giant's body, a crisp sound came out. Dozens of chains spit out from the mouth of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, all of which hit it. Sparks appeared one after another, and then flew out obliquely, without any effect at all. Chapter 724. Golden Sword and Chains, 2nd. Today is your day of death, Nagato. Gongyi's face was indifferent, quietly looking at Nagato in front of him. In golden armor stands between heaven and earth, and the terrifying chakra has already condensed into substance. Just because it is standing here at the moment, a suppressed power has spread around, making people feel almost suffocating. Nagato's Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, attack, although seemingly fierce, didn't hurt Gongyi at all. The outlandish chains just now were bounced off by the armor transformed by Jin-dun. It is still beautifully gilded, with golden brilliance blooming, without the slightest scar. What? There is no white mark, enough to see that the chain of the outsider just now seems to be impossible, and there is no threat to it. Don't be arrogant. The end of arrogance is usually very miserable. Seeing this scene, Nagato let out a frantic shout. His thin hands were immediately on his chest at the moment. When combined, the entire dozens of outlandish chains in front of it began to bloom with blue chakra rays. They seemed to have come alive just now, and they were all wrapped up by the power of chakra. Suddenly, a very terrifying force burst out at this moment. Gong Yi's appearance at this moment, Nagato can endure it again. Now that we have reached a situation where either you will die or I will die, Nagato has no reservations at all. This will be Kung Fu. I saw Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, immediately spit out dozens of chains in his mouth. Seems to have chains of life, and they are constantly intertwined, forming a kind of scepter with each other. However, its appearance is very strange, and the whole body is made of twisted chains. Om. In the hands of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, the chakra that wraps it is even more cathartic and soars into the sky. Nagato's Rinnegan stared round at this moment. Obviously he was also suffering some kind of pain. How can the power of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, be so useful, and it is difficult to drive it without a corresponding price? Humph. With a cold snort, Gong Yi's face showed disdain. Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, holding a chain scepter in front of him, he immediately one-handed printing. Senpo, Sage Art Golden Shield Transformation Sword. A ray of light blooms into the sky, and the infinite comes in a mighty manner, the same as when it was transformed into an armor before. When the dazzling golden light had dissipated, the stone giant was already holding a golden long sword in his hand. It is full of brilliance, and there are dense patterns on it, and a sharp and unstoppable sense of sharpness permeates it. The golden sword of the current stone giant is not inferior to the chain scepter in the hands of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Phew! At this moment, Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, at the foot of Nagato waved his chain scepter and smashed it towards Gong Yi in front of him. When the golden light appeared, Nagato issued an attack order. He didn't have any mood to wait for Gong Yi to finish his ninjutsu release. However, the golden long sword was condensed, and no time was wasted at all. When the attack of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, came, the stone giant's hand holding the golden long sword also immediately lifted. It also did not retreat, but advanced and attacked back. Two giants, their size is amazing, and now they start to fight. It seems to be very fast, but because of their size, it is not as fast as a real human fight. The sound of the wind whistling on both sides of their arms resounded all around, and they were about to collide. Next second, the golden long sword and the silver-colored chain scepter have already counteracted. It was almost silent at first, and then two bursts of violent coercion that reached the ultimate appeared sweetly. A bang, a powerful shock wave swept out again between the two. The stone giant at Gong Yi's feet, the long sword in its hand glows with golden brilliance, dyeing half of the gloomy sky golden. And the chain scepter in the hands of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, the blue chakra that wraps it is also a crazy catharsis, constantly bursting with light spots. The collision of the two is like a confrontation between heaven and earth. Under this crazy confrontation, the golden sword of the giant stone began to gradually gain the upper hand. The blue chakra around it began to dissipate, and the chains on it also showed a slight crack. Subsequently, the crack continued to spread, and soon penetrated the entire chain. Damn! Nagato glared at a pair of Rinnegan, and he bit Kiba immediately. Back kick is selected. The gigantic Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, let out a release, and the Dangdangadang stepped back a few steps before stopping. Now the chain scepter in its hand is very damaged, and it can no longer be used easily. Just one blow, he actually fell behind again. How could you? Gong Yi's body in front of him, there seems to be a power that he is familiar with, and Nagato can't believe it. Split second, he felt the same power that belonged to Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. However, Nagato couldn't believe it. After all, under the current situation, how could the 5 generations of Hokage in front of me have such a level? Although he is very strong, there is no mistake, but Nagato can't believe that he will be involved with Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, what relationship. At present, the power of 10 tails, Nagato has not been resurrected, naturally it is not clear. He could know was the power that belonged to Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. So now, he mistook the 10 tails power that was venting a little bit of Gong Yi's body as the power of Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Hee, don't you think your words? It seems a little too much. Gong Yi stood on the top of the stone giant's head, his eyes filled with endless killing intent. Right now, he doesn't have any mood at all, so he will chat with Nagato on topics that he doesn't need. Phew, just as Gong Yi's voice fell, the stone giant under his feet held the golden long sword in his hand and crashed down toward Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, again. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. To be able to easily resolve this war, Gong Yi doesn't want to spend a lot of time and waste too many means. Especially for the current Nagato, he seems to have discovered something. But so what? I got the power of 10 tails, and I can turn on the 6 paths mode perfectly. Didn't deliberately hide it. The reason why I haven't used it is because I want to wait until the time to deal with Uchiha Madara and Otsutsuki Kagaya. There seems to be no one in this ninja continent who can truly use such power. Even Nagato, he is still the same. In the blink of an eye, the golden long sword burst into light, and once again it is about to fall in front of Nagato. Chapter 725. Anti-Psychic Backlash, Third More. Suddenly fell with an unstoppable force. The whistling sound is endless, and the sharpness of the air is like cutting everything. Everything in front of it seems to be unable to stop it at this moment. What kind of ninjutsu is this? Jiraiya in the distance looked up, his face had long since turned pale. Such a large-scale ninjutsu, the deterrent to people, is too strong. Even the well-informed Jiraiya couldn't help swallowing. Looking at the towering stone giant, looking at the golden long sword in his hand. Between heaven and earth, it seems that there is only one scene left. The rest have all been eclipsed long ago, making it impossible for people to pay attention. Is that the 5th Hokage of Konoha village? His power, how could this be something a ninja could possess? Master Pain, who is called God, has he started to fall into a disadvantage? Other hand, when Jiraiya was shocked, the group of ninjas from a Megakure village, one of the few left, were equally astonished. The scene in front of them was earth-shattering and shocking enough to become their lingering nightmare for the rest of their lives. Who would rumble every step of the way made their hearts sink to the bottom of the valley long ago. This is a desperate and irresistible situation, which makes them unable to raise any point of resistance. Look closely, the giant stone giant under Gong Yi's feet now looks like an ordinary golden sword, but it contains terrifying power. Although it is very far away, it is still enough to make the scalp tingle and tremble all over. Meanwhile, on the field. Still here, the crowds around were stunned, but Nagato didn't stop anywhere when their faces were stunned. Now his hands are still folded in front of his chest, and he has never put them down. Seeing Gong Yi unleash a savage attack, his Rinnegan keeps unleashing power. Next second, he drives Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, immediately. He swung the chain scepter out with his backhand to block Gong Yi's golden longsword. Taking offense as defense, Nagato doesn't want to retreat at all now. Although I have to admit that Gong Yi's strength is terrifying, Nagato is still stubborn. After possessing the eyes of an immortal, he never thought that anyone else could really kill himself. Although he has already begun to enter the disadvantage, Nagato is still reluctant to believe it. He felt that the final victor was still only himself. Boom! The next moment, the giant of stone and Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, faced off again. The earth-shaking scene is still there, but this is not the way it was before. I saw the chain in the hands of Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. It shattered immediately, turned into pieces, and kept falling below. Immediately afterwards, the Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, body and arms began to have cracks, and then Nagato didn't have any time to react at all. The golden long sword held by the stone giant has instantly cut off the entire arm of Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Was a rumbling sound, and the dead wood-like arm of Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of smoke. Break me. Standing on the top of the stone giant's head, Gong Yi's face was calm, and he immediately shouted when he made a seal with one hand. Taking advantage of the current opportunity, he naturally wouldn't let Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, stay here. One stepped forward, and quickly slashed out again. The speed of the stone giant was very fast. Almost Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, doesn't move anymore, it just immediately completely cut Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, in half. A roar of anger appeared, and it seemed to be attacking with a shock wave, and the invisible power rippled, circle after circle. At this moment, the dark and heavy clouds above were all washed away, revealing a space of several kilometers. Course, waiting for Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, immediately. Outbreak and then another battle with the stone giant did not appear. I saw it bang, immediately. Dissipated and turned into a white smoke. Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is the body of the 10 tails, and although it seems to be destroyed now, it is not endangered at all. This moment, it's just an instant. Unlock the spirit and return to the moon. And in the years to come, it can use the power of the tail beast in its body to automatically recover. Basically, it won't take long for it to return to the way it was before. Well, the resilience of the tailed beast is terrifying, and the resilience of this Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, is even more pervert. Of course, Gong Yi didn't care too much about these things. Right now, all he is concerned about is Nagato, who has fallen behind. Poof. Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, suddenly went back in reverse channeling, and the backlash against Nagato was also very large. He immediately spit out a mouthful of blood, and then the whole person became even more sluggish, and at the same time his face was pale and frightening. Apparently he was dying, making people feel like an old man like the setting sun. Even his dark Yuhi-colored hair started to turn white. Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, has just been forcibly summoned, and the load on him is also very large. Hee, asking for trouble. Gong Yi looked down at Nagato below, a mocking sneer on his face. Rinnegan and Geto-Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path, their powers are powerful, but how can they be so useful even though Nagato, such power, will only be a double-edged sword. It is bringing him the power of a real god, but it is also depriving him of his life with greed. Everything today, Gong Yi doesn't even shoot anymore, Nagato is already dead. However, even though he came here today, it is naturally impossible to let him go. People are very crazy before they die. Once Nagato is released, it will be an endless disaster. Especially if he doesn't kill Nagato now, his future plans will not be able to proceed smoothly. As the most important part of it, Nagato has to die today. Since he wants peace in the ninja world, he can only sacrifice it. Thinking of this, the eyes of Yuhi, the giant of stone at the feet of Gong Yi, shone with light. It's immediate. Step forward, and step on the long gate below. The huge size obscured the sky and the sun, and in an instant Nagato, who was panting heavily, felt that his head was black. ... He looked up and saw that the stone giant had stepped on it. If this kick really fell, then Nagato would instantly become slushy. Who was silent at the moment, did not have the slightest emotion at all, instead his face showed an indifferent calm. Hands, Nagato's sunken cheek immediately. Shout out, Shinra Tensei, almighty push, levy. Only a few chakras in the body, and Rinnegan's power madly vents explosive power. A meaning of rejection, with Nagato as the center, immediately spread out all around. Chapter 726. The Death of Nagato. The foot of Gong Yi's stone giant was about to fall, immediately stagnated in midair. The surrounding of Nagato is now like an invisible semicircular barrier. Everything in it began to be rejected. The same way, the giant stone giant that wanted to fall was stuck there. Now it seems to be stepping on a transparent barrier. Naive. Gong Yi stood still on the top of the stone giant's head, quietly watching the Nagato gate below. Om! A chakra power burst out, and the stone giant gradually began to increase its power. The crisp sound of clack clack came out, and it seemed that cracks began to appear under its feet. And Nagato stared at Rinnegan. He bit Kiba and raised his hands, quietly looking up at the front. Of outsiders, the two seem to be restraining each other, and both are in a balanced confrontation. But that's not the case. Nagato has already begun. I was forced to the point of nowhere. He can rely on all the power, and it seems that nothing works for Gong Yi. Here. Konan, who had just fainted, slowly opened her eyes. When consciousness gradually returned, she immediately. He abruptly sat up and looked forward. Nagato. Konan's face is not good now, but immediately after seeing the battle between the two. Paler. Looking at the scene, the situation has begun to be desperate, and Konan doesn't know it yet, and it seems that the two of them are about to decide the outcome. Nagato's appearance made Konan's heart tighten. As the one who accompanies Nagato next to her, there is no one who knows that Nagato has overdrawn a lot of vitality at this moment. If you go on like this, you will really die. Konan stood up forcibly and began to condense the chakra in his body. The fight with Gong Yi just now, her consumption was actually very large. Don't think it's just a few ninjutsu skills, but all of them are Konan's strongest trump card. Now that all of them are used, the consumption for her is also not small. Of course, Konan doesn't care too much now, but is also forcibly restoring chakra. Boom! There was a wave of aftermath from the battlefield between the two in front, and violent smoke was once again swept away. Nagato's Shinra Tensei Almighty Push is very strong, but still can't resist the trampling of stone giants. A huge pit appeared, and Nagato had already retreated to a position of several kilometers. Who? Nagato was gasping for breath, his complexion was extremely pale now, and his entire body seemed to be collapsed. Of vitality and the depletion of chakra made Nagato's state not as good as before. Even before, Nagato's condition wasn't much better. So not to mention that now, he is even more uncomfortable. Especially Gong Yi's attack has no gaps at all, it's just uninterrupted. He didn't even have time to let Nagato catch his breath. The sound of rumbling came, which would make the stone giant start the second round of attack. Bansho Tenon Universal Pull. Already thousands of meters away, Nagato started raising his hand to the other side. Although the distance seems to be far away now, it is only 2 or 3 steps away from the giant of stone. With a hum, the countless gravels in front of them all began to be attracted by Nagato. Countless construction wastes are coming here in pieces. Shinra Tensei Almighty Push Expedition. When he was not far from Nagato, he immediately drink again. With a hum, all the ruins slammed towards the giant stone in front. Whoosh whoosh. The sleeves immediately. A flick, dozens of sharp black chakra sticks were mixed in. With such a series of attacks, Nagato naturally knew that he couldn't kill it. But Nagato's purpose is nothing more than, I want to delay the pace of the giant stone under Gong Yi's feet for a while. Okay, it's almost there. Standing on top of the towering stone giant, Gong Yi's terrifying sense of consciousness still spread. He knew that Konan had woken up, and that Nagato was now exhausted. As long as he was killed and Konan took him away, it would be logical. Well, I left a lot of troubles in my future. With his thoughts here, Gongyi has begun to no longer hesitate. The stone giant in front was extremely violent, as if he had entered a state of madness in an instant. It was still walking just now, but now it actually started to run. There was a rumbling sound all around, and the entire Omegakure village seemed to be shaken by an earthquake. Damn! Nagato watched the sudden change of the giant stone. He couldn't help biting Kiba and cursed. 5 Hokage, this is not over yet. Hee, that's just your wishful thinking. Standing on top of the running stone giant, Gongyi had a strange smile on his face. After all the rubble that had been repelled by Shinra Tensei, almighty push, were smashed, the violent stone giant actually stopped. At this moment Nagato, he was completely puzzled. How could everything be like this, PFF'd. Before Nagato finished speaking, a muffled sound came out. He only felt a chill in his chest, and then there was endless pain. A pair of Rinnegan's widened. Nagato looked down and saw that a golden long sword had pierced through him at some point. Its razor-sharp blade bloomed with cold light, and still on it, the blood of the orangutan Yuhi was flowing. Drop by drop, it began to continuously drip onto the ground at the tip of its sword. Nagato seemed to sense that everything was slowing down. In my mind, even fewer began to keep popping up memories of my childhood. Yahiko, meeting Konan, meeting Jiraiya. At this time, Nagato seemed to feel an unprecedented relaxation. It seems that being able to die now is a relief for him. A smile gradually appeared on his face. 5 generations of Hokage, you are really strong. You want peace in the ninja world, and I will help you with this matter. And the price of all this is to be borne by your death. An indifferent voice came out, echoing in Nagato's ears. I don't know when. Standing behind Nagato, Gongyi slowly drew out the Jin-dun longsword. The current Gongyi did not make Nagato die ugly, but gave him a decent way to die. After all, he was just a poor man blinded by powerful forces and finally designed by outsiders. For such a tragic character, Gongyi respects in his heart, but does not have the slightest pity. Because he is his own enemy. Is that so? Hearing what Gongyi said, Nagato slowly closed his eyes and smiled even more. Puff! Fell to the ground weakly. Nagato's breathing gradually weakened at this moment. But he seems to feel that he hasn't relaxed like this for a long time. Chapter 727. Konan's Hatred. Nagato. Konan, who was about to dodge to support Nagato just now, was instantly in shape. A stagnation. Konan showed a face that seemed unacceptable, staring blankly ahead. She couldn't believe that what she saw in front of her eyes was actually true. A pair of eyes began to empty, and her mind was even more blank. Konan seems to have forgotten that this is a battlefield, and seems to have forgotten that this is a very dangerous place. Even the existence of Gongyi and others are still standing in front, and Konan doesn't care at all. At this moment, it is more difficult for her to imagine that even Nagato, who owns Rinnegan, actually died at the hands of Hokage, the 5th generation of Konoha village. Yahiko died, and now Nagato is also dead, and the 3 of them have been left alone since they were young. Once Yahiko's dream, and Nagato continue here. Then what can I do when Nagato is dead? Whether it is Nagato or Yahiko, the will of the 2 of them cannot be fulfilled by myself. And, now that Nagato has died so vaguely, Konan's heart is filled with endless stinging pain. Who would have known Nagato did this at the beginning? It belonged to the abyss completely. But Konan was still willing to support, and stayed behind him in obscurity. But all this when Nagato dies, then immediately collapsed. Konan's face gradually turned, angry. Front of the initiator of all this, there is only one person. Konoha village 5 generations Hokage Gongyi. When thinking of this, Konan also immediately looked forward and shouted, Bastard, stop me. Front. The stone giant has now collapsed, and Gongyi is standing in front of Nagato. He was ready to bend down, showing the appearance that he was about to win Nagato Rinnegan. But in the next second, a piece of white paper immediately flew around and surrounded him. Conan, whose face was already frosty, flashed as fast as she could. Everything happened in a flash of lightning. Before Gong Yi's waist could be bent, Conan came to the rear with Nagato's body. Into pieces of white paper, they began to wrap continuously. While Nagato's entire body was completely sealed. As long as I'm here, you won't succeed. With endless hatred in his eyes, Conan stared at Gong Yi in front of him. Still, Gong Yi, who kept his movements just now, showed a faint smile on his face. He shrugged and looked at Conan. It's a quick move, it looks like I should get rid of you first. It's a pity you didn't kill me first. It's not too late to kill you now. Then try it. Hearing this, Conan spoke in a cold voice, and the whole person seemed to have no fear at all. The person who is most important to me, Conan, is now very free and easy. Her frosty face was incomparably indifferent, it seemed to be very calm, and there were no waves. It seemed that even if she really died, she would not feel any fear at all. Conan was thinking about right now was nothing but protect Nagato's Rinnegan. Having been by Nagato's side for so long, how could she not understand Rinnegan, who has the same eyes as the Six Paths Sage, for this pair of powerful pupils is very tempting to the people of the entire ninja world. Hokage in front of him, no matter who it is, it seems impossible to avoid the commonplace. Actions just now were already exposed in Conan's eyes. Conan didn't know what Gong Yi's real purpose was, she only felt that Gong Yi wanted to take away Nagato's Rinnegan. Hokage. At this time, wait, Gong Yi went to start again, and a voice came. Gong Yi turned his head to the side, a white-haired man came to him. It was Jiraiya. He looked so complicated at the moment that he didn't seem to know how to describe it. My heart was very uncomfortable, but suddenly I felt that the stone that was pressing on my heart disappeared. Jiraiya really has mixed feelings about Nagato's death. No matter what, the child in front of him was also growing up a little bit at the beginning. However, his existence does not always threaten everyone in the ninja world continent. Now that he is dead, it is the best ending for everyone. Jiraiya, what do you want to do? Gong Yi naturally did not show anything, but asked Jiraiya with a frown. The purpose of his coming here is obvious, and of course, it is exactly what Gong Yi meant. Use him now as a breakthrough so that Conan can also leave naturally. If he really let her go so easily, then all the fools would know that there must be a deceit. Especially after Uchiha Obito was killing Conan and taking Rinnegan. Invisibly, he will be regarded as Uchiha Obito's accomplice. This will be different, and now with Jiraiya inserted in the middle, the nature is completely different. Well, what Gong Yi is thinking of now, is indeed what Jiraiya is thinking now. Was enough to see Nagato die. In all fairness, as their teacher, Conan now wants to let him go. But invisibly, if Conan leaves, it will actually be a very serious threat to Konoha village. After all, the one who killed Nagato was Hokage Gong Yi, the 5th generation, who now controls Konoha village. Hate is such a continual negativity, it will not stop, nor will it go away. Unless can really cut the weeds. But now Jiraiya is exactly here. Conan is his own disciple and the only one who is alive at the end. In private, Jiraiya wants to beg Gong Yi to let Conan go. You Gong, now Conan is Akatsuki's person, then he is the enemy of the entire ninja continent. Now that the Konoha village has killed Nagato, then Conan is even more of a scourge for the Konoha village. Therefore, the one who should be killed is actually Conan. With a gloomy expression on his face, Jiraiya doesn't know how to speak. Actually, I came here today, Jiraiya just wanted to get some information about Akatsuki next. But I didn't expect that it would turn into such a situation now. Although I made up my mind before, I am going to clean up the portal and get rid of them all. But when this is the case, Jiraiya is still unacceptable. Hokage, I think we should take her back to Konoha village first, and then decide. Jiraiya thought about it for a while, and seemed to think this was the best way. First imprison Conan, don't let go, don't kill him. So far, apart from this, there is no good way to solve it. However, how can Gong Yi now let Jiraiya destroy his plan? It is obviously impossible. Philo reminds you. 3 things to read, collect, push the latest chapter Baidu search 99 Playmate find 99 Novel Network and LT. Chapter 728. In the name of Uchiha Madara. Retrieve Konoha village first, and then decide. Hearing Jiraiya finish speaking, a strange look appeared on Gong Yi's face. Silent for half a second, Gong Yi sneered. Everyone is selfish, Jiraiya, you are the same. The guy in front of you now, she is no longer your disciple. Gong Yi stared at Conan and continued, she is a member of Akatsuki, an enemy of the ninja world, and an enemy of our Konoha village. Now such a guy, you want to bring her back to the village of Konoha. Shaking his head, Gong Yi vetoed without hesitation. This is absolutely impossible. Fire. Don't you know now that bringing her back to the village will have only endless disadvantages and no benefits at all? Not listening to Jiraiya at all, Gong Yi pretended to have a questioning face of Mu Yang. If she is really brought back, once she is taken out of control, the entire Konoha village will be completely passive, and may even be given to her. Destroy. Don't forget, your disciple, her ability is very difficult to handle. I have received news that her secret technique can even be turned into paper and completely disintegrate her body immediately. A memory on his face, Gong Yi revealed what Jiraiya didn't know. Even the news from Anbu, her secret art of disguising using paper, even Mangekyo Sharingan couldn't see through. So, once she does enter the village of Konoha, it will be an endless scourge. Quote. Jiraiya immediately. Silence. At this moment, he was speechless by what Gong Yi said. Yes, now my own thoughts are indeed very selfish. Hearing Gong Yi finish saying this, Jiraiya felt that she couldn't refute at all. This is called paper escape. The secret technique is indeed very strange, Jiraiya has to admit. Heard Gong Yi finished speaking, his heart actually sank even more. Even Mangekyo Sharingan can't see through the secret art of disguise. Once she was brought into Konoha village, if Gong Yi left, she used the secret art to escape, and then went to disguise and kill the ninjas of Konoha village. I don't even need to think about such consequences, it's not something he can bear. I don't need your pity. At this time, no wait, what was Jiraiya saying? Conan, who was standing in front, still had a frosty expression on his face, immediately. Low drink. No matter what happens today, none of you will succeed. Conan has made an alert action now, her whole body is tense, ready to enter the battle at any time. Success. Shaking his head, Gong Yi stepped forward with a playful look. Rinnegan of Nagato has never belonged to him, what are you still thinking about here? What do you mean? Conan can't seem to understand when he hears this. Words that Rinnegan accompanied Nagato since childhood, how could it not be his? Gong Yi, made Conan difficult to understand. Not his. Behind Jiraiya, he was also puzzled. Hokage, what news did you get? That's right. Gong Yi nodded and said slowly, I had already guessed before, but now that I see Nagato, I can be sure. Pointing to Nagato in front, Gong Yi continued, the reason why he is like this now is that the root of everything is Rinnegan. The reason he is like this is because Rinnegan was not born in his body, but Uchiha Madara implanted it. Outlining a smile, Gong Yi said without reservation, it is the load of these eyes that makes Nagato so weak so quickly. Uchiha Madara. Conan's complexion changed at this time, and after thinking of a lot of things, she seemed to show an incomprehensible look. But I have to say that Rinnegan's burden on Nagato is indeed very large, which is questioned by Mu Yang. Conan also seemed to notice something, and she rarely refuted it. How is this possible? Jiraiya's face immediately turned. One white, it is hard to imagine that there is such a secret here. Uchiha Madara. even this guy got involved. Power of this Rinnegan, I have to say, is getting more and more mysterious. At least Jiraiya can't guess at all how everything here is like this. Having said this, it's enough, I'll deal with your scourge first. Feeling the confusion between the two, Gong Yi no longer explained it. Now such a thing, it is useless to say more, and it is enough to simply reveal a little. Dance of the Shikigami Paper Rain. Swish swish. At this time, the body wrapped around Nagato floated in the air, Conan immediately kicked back with him. And the rest of the paper they are immediately condensed on both sides of Conan's body, turning into two sides, wings. With a hula fan, endless sharp pieces of paper are blasted out, really like paper rain. Naive, you thought you could leave like this. Seeing that Conan wanted to leave, Gong Yi sneered in his heart. If she wants to fight with herself to the end, Gong Yi is really hard to do. But it's going to work, by telling Conan something about Rinnegan just now. Looks like Conan, she wants to get out of here now and find Uchiha Madara face to face. She has a lot of confusion in her mind right now. Arms. Now that Conan is leaving, it's naturally according to Gong Yi's plan. Otherwise, if he really took Nagato's Rinnegan with him today, things would have shifted. Good at that time, once Uchiha Obito is forced to recover Kakashi's eyes. Then he is likely to reveal his identity. Uchiha Obito, his name has Uchiha Madara's fame there. He wants to declare war, but naturally he can't use the identity of Uchiha Obito. If this is really the case, wouldn't it make the villages in the entire ninja world laugh at the big Kiba? Only the name of Uchiha Madara is the most shocking, and makes them let go of everything. For the sake of his follow-up plan, all of this naturally cannot happen. Fortunately, these words made Conan think of leaving here. Blink of an eye, the sound of swishes of paper in the sky ahead came one after another. They were densely packed, all falling towards Gong Yi and Jiraiya. At this moment, there was a sound of rapid burning of flames. Detonator. Only then did Gong Yi realize that all the densely packed pieces of paper in front of them were paper pieces that resembled detonating talismans. Endless, there were tens of thousands of them. Is it actually already collected? Gong Yi immediately stopped chasing, but immediately. Both hands hand seal. Senpo, Sage Art Luli Tianmu. To see the underlined version of the novel, please download Filu Shaokin's latest chapter. Baidu search 99 Playmates to find 99 novels. Chapter 729. Senpo, Sage Art Glazed Canopy. At this time, Gong Yi did not continue to walk over when he saw the piece of paper that Conan shot out, with the power of the detonating talisman attached. Now I have the intention to let her go and use this defense against Conan to attack the gap, but it is a good opportunity. Om. A strange voice sounded, and a crystal clear blue water curtain appeared. When it appears, it is immediately. He stretched out and completely blocked Gong Yi's eyes. The chakra of Sage Art vented out and was continuously injected into the blue water curtain. It's just a mere piece of Conan's paper ahead, but it won't make Gong Yi go to great trouble at all. Acting is better than a full set. Although with his current Sage mode and the power of the 8 inner gates, it is enough to penetrate this Conan's dance of the Shikigami ninjutsu unscathed. But Gong Yi didn't do it, and chose to stand here and defend quietly. The booming sound all hit the top at the moment when the water curtain was formed. The coercion of the explosion, and the invisible shock wave, swayed the water curtain into ripples. However, although they are powerful, they have no influence on them in the slightest. 3 even said, that deafening sound was not actually transmitted through the water curtain at all. Conan's attacks just now were dense and fierce, but they didn't threaten Gong Yi in the slightest. It seemed that her struggle just now was of no use to Gong Yi. Jiraiya's expression was sluggish, and he was also staring blankly at the front. Gong Yi's glazed canopy seemed to be swung out casually, but Jiraiya was once again horrified. who knows that Gong Yi is very strong, but every time he really sees it, he can't help but lose his mind. After all, Gong Yi's methods are actually beyond the comprehension of ninjas. Soon, when the orange Yuhi-colored fire of the explosion dissipated, and the aftermath had ceased, the sunlight reflected down. A piece of light fell on the top of the glazed sky, and it couldn't help emitting a colorful light. Like a rainbow, and like a glass, it makes people feel dazzling, and an indescribable beauty is displayed in front of the eyes. Whoa! When Conan's attacks have all disappeared, the glass canopy is slowly disappearing. Gong Yi waved his hand, and the white smoke in front of him was instantly dispersed to both sides by invisible power. Dodging, when he reappeared, he was only a few hundred meters away from Conan. Just now, although the attack seems to be very long, it is not too slow. But this time, after breaking through the attack range of Conan dance of the Shikigami, he looked at Conan in front of him and just sneered, "Haha, it's really interesting." A pair of dark eyes radiated a strange light at this moment. Unconsciously, there was a hint of play and a hint of sarcasm. Dance of the Shikigami paper shuriken. Seeing that the current Gong Yi is already approaching, Nan immediately. He waved his hand and threw out several shuriken. Whole body is white, and it is made of folded paper. Even so, they are so sharp and deadly enough. It seems that the best of all this can only end like this. Jiraiya, who was standing at the back, saw that Gong Yi had approached Conan, and he didn't seem to be as demanding as before. He naturally listened to all the words Gong Yi said just now. So far, if you want to truly solve the scourge of Akatsuki, then the next step is to cut weeds. If you want to protect Konoha village, you can't let anyone go today. Especially Conan's ability. Jiraiya knew that it was very strange. But he never imagined that if her secret technique was used for disguise, even Mangekyo Sharingan would not be able to detect it. This made Jiraiya completely unbelievable, and even vaguely surprised. Mangekyo Sharingan, that is the most powerful pupil of the Uchiha clan. As the core executive of Konoha village, he still knows a lot about the Sharingan of the Uchiha family. Especially, as for Mangekyo Sharingan, Jiraiya knows how powerful it is. But Conan's paper escape secret technique can easily evade the detection of such a pupil technique. If everything is really as Gong Yi said, this will have very serious consequences. Thinking of this, Jiraiya is completely embarrassed to talk to Gong Yi anymore. When he arrived here, he seemed to be powerless and could only look forward like this. The whizzing sound of breaking the sky kept coming out. At this moment, several shuriken folded from paper. They shot towards Gong Yi without the slightest fear. Senpo, Sage Art Jin Dun. Gong Yi saw Conan's attack ahead. He didn't go back to release ninjutsu. At this moment he headed up to Conan and killed directly. The golden light bloomed. Gong Yi raised his arm, and immediately condensed a golden long sword in his hand. Hula. With a wave forward, several golden sword chi immediately blasted out. The paper shuriken that had just been fierce in front of him was all broken into pieces and scattered in the wind. Blink of an eye, Conan in front of him didn't seem to react, and Gong Yi's whole person's speed was immediate. Boom! Almost instantly, immediately. Arrived in front of Conan. I saw her eyes widened at the moment. The pale face on her face seemed to be full of incredible confidence. Before the distance between the two, she could still use another ninjutsu, but it was not realized at all. Because in an instant, Gong Yi had pierced her body with the golden long sword in his hand. But, the next second, just as Jiraiya closed her eyes, everything in front of her changed completely. Conan, who was pierced by the golden long sword in Gong Yi's hand, actually turned white gradually. And then, actually completely turned into a thin white paper person, and finally slammed into countless pieces of paper immediately. Diffusion. Paper clone. Looking up at the sheets of paper that had been blown by the wind, Gong Yi smiled. It's still pretty good. In fact, long ago, Gong Yi's already knew that the Conan in front of her was the paper avatar she left behind. The tyrannical consciousness spreads, and Conan's tricks will not be seen there. Although Mangekyo Sharingan can't see through her disguise, Gung-Yi can easily find it. However, in order to confuse Jiraiya, Gung-Yi did not hesitate to perform again. Now that Conan is leaving, it is completely in line with his plan, which is still very good, and saves himself a lot of trouble in the future. The whole plan has been in the process of being gradually arranged by myself. Chapter 780, The Old Confused Jiraiya. Actually, is it actually a clone? Seeing the scene in front of her, Jiraiya dodged and came to Gung-Yi's side. He looked startled and looked at the sheets of paper flying all over the sky in front of him. At this moment, Jiraiya, his heart is more complicated. Conan's departure from here is a mixed blessing for him. She is his own disciple after all, but she will also be the future enemy of Konoha village. Thinking of these, after that, Jiraiya doesn't know whether this is good or bad. Looks like you want, Jiraiya. Gung-Yi put down his hand, and the golden sword instantly collapsed into stars. The current Gung-Yi has a trace of complaint on his face. Your disciple successfully left here. When is she? Seeing Gung-Yi like this, Jiraiya was actually quite embarrassed. Although there is nothing like Jiraiya, Gung-Yi's ability to throw the blame is very powerful. It was at this moment that Jiraiya felt that it was her own fault, which made Conan escape. Jiraiya's whole body began to be filled with a kind of self-blame. The more he thought about it, the more he seemed to feel that he was all to blame for those words he just said. I think it was immediately after the first wave of ninjutsu was released. Escaped using the secret art paper. Shrugging, a helpless smile appeared on Gung-Yi's face at this moment. Of course it's not because Conan left, it's more because of seeing Jiraiya like this. He felt that the current Jiraiya was really a bit old and confused. But it's also good, Jiraiya is very good guide now, which is also beneficial to my next plan. I don't think she's going far. Now what do you think of Hokage? Jiraiya naturally didn't know what Gung-Yi was thinking at the moment, he asked after thinking for a moment. Although I haven't gone far now, do you think that with her secret skills, we can still find her? Gung-Yi's face the color gradually returned to calm, and said lightly. Quote. Once again, being said by Gung-Yi, I don't know how to answer. Yes, Gung-Yi just said Conan's secret art of hiding in paper. If she really wants to disguise, then even Mangekyo Sharingan can't detect it. No one knows about Gung-Yi's terrifying ability to perceive consciousness. So, now Jiraiya knows that Gung-Yi is powerful, but it is enough to be a little helpless. Because even if it is powerful, it may be a weak point for such reconnaissance perception. After all, every ninja has his own strengths and his weaknesses. Naturally, he didn't believe that there would really be a very comprehensive ninja. That's why, Gung-Yi, Jiraiya also dare not think so. Okay, let's go back to Konoha village first. Gung-Yi didn't talk any further, but turned around and walked away. Jiraiya couldn't see through what he thought. But now what Jiraiya is thinking, Gung-Yi can clearly know Akatsuki. Well, Gung-Yi didn't refute what he thought, but was deliberately letting go of Zhao Qing's suspicion for himself. Okay. Jiraiya recovered and nodded. Now it seems that he feels that he has done something wrong, and he is not talking much behind Gung-Yi. Jiraiya's heart is quite tangled, self-blame, etc. Emotions are constantly intertwined and filled in my heart. He can't even say what kind of mood he should be in now. At the same time, after the two had dodged and left, they would slowly reveal half of their bodies far away from them. The pair of yellow eyes first looked at where Gung-Yi and Jiraiya left, and then stared at the other side. Where Conan left with Nagato's corpse. Something's going wrong. After getting the information about the clone, the main body of this side, Ju came to Uchiha Obito and said. What's wrong? Sitting on a towering gravel, Uchiha Obito turned his head to look at Ju. Is there any news about the 5th Hokage from Nagato? There is indeed news for the two of them. Ju nodded and continued. Now Nagato is defeated by Hokage 5 generations and has already been killed. Well, what did you say? When Uchiha Obito heard this, he couldn't help but stand up. I lost to Hokage, the 5th generation, and was killed by him. Indeed it is. Ju shrugged, with a bad expression on his face. We seem to underestimate the 5th Hokage of Konoha village. His strength is stronger than we thought. Rinnegan has been taken by him. Without paying attention to Nagato's life or death, Uchiha Obito immediately asked. The current Rinnegan is the most important thing. For Uchiha Obito, that is the guarantee for him to fight against the 5 great ninja villages in the future. Rinnegan, this is just the same thing he kept with Nagato. Now, Uchiha Obito suddenly heard these, and he was naturally very concerned about Rinnegan's situation. No, it wasn't taken away by the 5th Hokage. Ju shook his head and responded immediately. When Nagato died, Konan took his body back and ran away. You mean Konan was in that guy's hands and escaped straight away, and Nagato's Rinnegan hasn't been taken away yet? ... A hint of doubt appeared on Uchiha Obito's face behind the mask, and he couldn't help but feel more confused. Rinnegan, this is rumored to be the strongest pupil. As the 5th Hokage who was very obsessed with power, how could he give up such power and let Konan go easily? This seems a little wrong. No, it's not that the 5th generation Hokage let him go on purpose. Seemed to know what Uchiha Obito was thinking, but he never stopped. The guy from Jiraiya once appeared to discourage Hokage for the 5th generation, but Konan released his attack first, and then used secret techniques to escape the chaos and left. Hehe, it doesn't look like she's stupid. After saying that, Uchiha Obito also suddenly realized. Such a simple explanation, the front and back can be smooth. Konan's paper escape, its unique camouflage technique, Uchiha Obito is aware of. Now she can use this secret technique to escape from the chaos, which is also unexpected. Uchiha Obito showed a smile. That's fine, save me going to Konoha village to get Rinnegan back. You know where she left? Absolutely. Head and looking at Ju who was standing there, Uchiha Obito asked again. Naturally know that my clone has been following her since she left. Absolutely nodded and replied. Enter. Chapter 731. Rise and Fall. Morning, a ray of sunshine shines on the earth. The silent things are slowly revived, and everything begins to become alive. Konoha village, inside the Hokage office. Lord Jiraiya, you are really impulsive. Standing beside Gong Yi, Nara Shikaku shrugged and said, it's fortunate that nothing happened to you this time. But even so, a calamity has finally been released. Hearing Nara Shikaku saying this, Jiraiya's face also showed remorse. Thinking of Konan who escaped, Jiraiya felt a little unable to face Gong Yi. If I hadn't blocked that before, maybe there wouldn't be so many things now. Oh, actually, you don't have to worry too much. Sitting on the Hokage chair, Gong Yi smiled and seemed to be in N3220. Comforting Jiraiya, Nagato is dead, and now this Konan alone can't make any waves. Now the whole Akatsuki, to put it bluntly, is dead in name, and there are no more members at all, so it doesn't matter a long time ago. Knocking on the table, Gong Yi's face. Wrong gradually said solemnly. There is only one person we should worry about, and that is the guy who calls himself Uchiha Madara now. No matter how I think about it, I suspect that his identity as Uchiha Madara is a little unbelievable. Hearing this, Nara Shikaku frowned, and it seemed a little difficult to understand. After all, Uchiha Madara, who was the same era as the first Hokage of Konoha village. Is unrealistic to think that Nara Shikaku can live until the Hokage has been passed down for 5 generations when Konoha village was first established. He seemed to feel something incomprehensible, and something that he felt was very impossible at all. If Nara Shikaku was alive at that time, it would be hard to understand how powerful Nara Shikaku would have been until now. Uchiha Madara, according to common sense, it is impossible for him to live so long. No, Shikaku, sensei, you are wrong. Gongyi shook his head and said slowly, there are too many grotesque ninjutsus in the ninja world. We don't know, it doesn't mean there are none. This kind of ninjutsu is similar to immortality, although it is not realistic at all, but we have also encountered it, right? Head to the side, Gongyi dismissed the idea of Nara Shikaku immediately. Interrupt. I want to guide myself, not let them doubt. If they were to doubt the identity of Uchiha Madara now, wouldn't their plans for the future die out? Thinking of this, Gongyi said again, among the members, there is a member named Zhao Du. I think you are not unfamiliar. He is using his own secret technique, and it will not be so long before he is still alive and well. You mean the guy with 5 hearts? Hearing Gongyi say this, Nara Shikaku can think of it. That's right. Nodding his head, Gongyi smiled and said, Takian Village's grievance secret technique is the secret that has helped him live for so long. This ability is simply speaking, through my analysis, it is. By using chakra to manipulate the black tentacles released in the body, so as to capture the hearts of others. Including your own heart, you can store up to 555 hearts in your body, and then by replacing the hearts to extend your lifespan, you can achieve the level of immortality. Seeing that Jiraiya and Nara didn't speak, Gongyi didn't stop. There were rumors that he even played against the first Hokage of our Konoha village. Just imagine that a guy like this can survive forever. It wouldn't be surprising if Uchiha Madara has similar abilities. Face began to become serious. Gongyi said solemnly, so now everything is possible, we still have to be careful, and not suspect anything here. Well, Hokage, you're right, I was careless just now. Listening to Gongyi say this, Nara Shikaku nodded in response. Before, Nara Shikaku, who was guessing, heard Gongyi's reminder immediately. Suddenly realized. The ninja world is full of wonders, and now there are various forbidden secret techniques. Even Nara Shikaku, he is the core executive of Konoha village. But the master's ninjutsu is not as numerous as expected. There are many things that he really cannot understand. Yuchi thought about Takian village's grievances. Its ability is indeed enough to support ordinary people to live forever. There are 5 hearts, even if one of them is damaged, it will not affect his vitality in the slightest. It is only necessary to replace and transplant them before they decay. Such an ability, Nara Shikaku shuddered a little when he thought about it. A person has lived for so long, he can really endure such loneliness. After all, he has to watch the people around him grow old and die, and watch the rise and fall of each era. Anyway, although immortality sounds very tempting, but how many people can really insist on going through this? The Hokage you now think is Uchiha Madara. After his defeat with the original Hokage, he belongs to suspended animation. Jiraiya, who has never spoken, frowned and guessed, then passed some kind of secret technique, finally survived, and began to secretly plan all this now. It's impossible to say for sure, but it's not impossible. Gongyi put his hand on his chin and pretended to be contemplative. Now Gongyi's approach is simple, just make everyone feel a sense of urgency. Although Uchiha Obito is a small person, there are many legends and records of Uchiha Madara, which are enough to make the ninja continent jealous. Today, with their unknowing guidance, at least Nara Shikaku and Jiraiya have begun to believe it. Although still not sure, 1. But they are invisible, and they will follow their own words to think. Well, such a psychological suggestion really had to make the two of them think more about it. The matter of Uchiha Madara is not a trivial matter, they dare not look down upon it. Especially, this is a skill, and the ninja continent has gradually begun to be serious, and the two of them dare not be careless. Although looking at Nara Shikaku and Jiraiya, the two of them seem to be easy to coax, but in fact, one is the core executive of Konoha village, and the other is the think tank of Hokage for generations. How could the two of them not be fools? But now Gong Yi is sitting in this position, so what he said is more convincing. At the same time, the two are naturally suspicious, so they have to really get into the trap that Gong Yi has prepared for a long time. Chapter 732. Magical Guy, Second More. But since it is Uchiha Madara, why is he planning these now? Jiraiya was silent for a moment, and the whole person couldn't help but be confused. Especially at the moment he's still collecting tailed beasts, which is a bit strange. Nara Shikaku also muttered to himself after pondering for a while. Why do you plan these, and what the tailed beast wants to do, I still have no way of knowing. Gong Yi's face. Wrong didn't change much, and answered the two people's questions lightly. Although Gong Yi's future plans need to use Nara Shikaku's side. But now is not the best time to tell him. After everything was fully implemented, Konoha village was very agitated, and even if Nara Shikaku disagreed, it didn't matter at all. Any case, his master looks at Uchiha Shisui's eyes, and he only needs to use Kotoa Matsukami to change Nara Shikaku's will, and he can also complete his own plan. The most important thing now is the opening of the Five Shadows Conference and the position of the general of the Master Coalition. Well, before that, Gong Yi also needed 29 to use the opportunity of killing Nagato to find Uchiha Obito for cooperation. Without his push, his follow-up plans would be quite troublesome. If the fourth ninja war suddenly stops, how can I consume the power of the rest of the ninja village? Even Gong Yi can start the war with the power of Konoha village. But in the end, it was also punished by the people, and it was completely meaningless. So Gong Yi's real purpose is to use Uchiha Obito to consume these ninja villages for himself. And, you can do it by yourself and make it a perfect ending. At that time, under the condition of being exhausted, no ninja village will dare to deny what it is. After solving Uchiha Madara and Otsutsuki Kagaya, the entire ninja continent can be completely unified by himself. Unlike the original Senju Hashirama, he wanted to use split-tailed beasts to come and go to make each ninja village contain each other. With the tailed beast acting as a nuclear weapon, naturally there will be no war in the ninja village. But Senju Hashirama really thinks too much. He completely underestimated the greed of ninjas. What happened after that was obvious to all. The Second Ninja World War and the Third Ninja World War completely intensified. According to the development in the original work, if there is no Uchiha Obito to stir up behind here, the Fourth War will still be staged. As long as there are interests, there will be wars. Simply relying on the idea of tailed beasts is actually unrealistic. And you are different. Gong Yi is. He wants to completely unify the ninja continent and turn all the ninja villages into a unified existence. In this case, can this truly achieve peace? Of course, Gong Yi is not that great. This is just his first and final milestone in the Hokage world. Unifying the ninja world is very exciting to think about. Gong Yi, you guys are back. At this time, without waiting for the three of them to do anything, Tsunade immediately pushed the door and walked in. She looked worried at the moment, but she relaxed when she saw Gong Yi sitting here. Blink of an eye, she looked at Jiraiya. You were really not afraid of death, but you ran away from Akatsuki by yourself. Cough cough cough. Faced with Tsunade's accusations, Jiraiya didn't say anything, just an embarrassed dry cough. Okay Tsunade, sensei, now that Jiraiya is back, it's already not bad. Gong Yi smiled and helped Jiraiya to excuse himself. But this time I was able to come back, thanks to the 5 generations of Hokage. Shrugging, a wry smile appeared on Jiraiya's face. I didn't expect that the scourge left behind would have such a serious threat to me. Then now the leader of Akatsuki, how is he? I got rid of it. Yes. Tsunade was stunned when he heard Gong Yi's answer. The leader of Akatsuki was killed by you. If you don't kill him, Jiraiya and I will never come back. Seeing Tsunade's Tsunade's reaction, Gongyi looked amused. It seems that without realizing it, you have become stronger again. Tsunade shook his head, exclaiming in surprise. Now the leader of Akatsuki, how powerful he is, the general ninja village has information. The sheer strength alone is enough to make people tricky. Not to mention, he also has the eyes of the Fairy Six Paths, the legendary god of the Chunin world. That pair of Rinnegan's was a nightmare that no one could have reached. People who were enough to threaten the entire ninja continent were killed like this. Looking at Gongyi's appearance, it seemed that he was still very calm, and he didn't have too much pressure. In his heart, Tsunade felt. The rating has increased countless times again. She was even thinking at the moment, it seemed that she had been away from Konoha village for too long, and had been staying in the ninja hospital since then. Although there are many rumors about Gongyi in the ninja world, Tsunade has never really had a clear understanding of Gongyi. A trance, she seemed to feel that this guy in front of him, who had become a fifth-generation Hokage, wanted to teach him medical ninjutsu by himself. Cut, this guy. Thinking of this, Tsunade also unconsciously showed a smile. Okay, Tsunade-sensei, don't worry about these things. Glancing at Tsunade, Gongyi smiled unabated. It's all under my control, nothing will happen. At this moment, Gongyi naturally knew that Tsunade still cared about him very much. Especially just now, knowing that Jiraiya also went to a Megakure village. But the first reaction when she opened the door, she didn't pay attention to Jiraiya, instead she looked towards herself. During the whole process, it is enough to see which of the two is heavier. Not only Gongyi can see it, but also Nara Shikaku and Jiraiya. Especially Jiraiya at the moment, his face is actually quite complicated. Well, there is still a little bit of unpleasantness in my heart. After all, I still had such a little interest in Tsunade back then. Although he didn't express it, he still kept it in his heart. Of course, thinking about it at this moment, the 5 generations of Hokage in front of me are so good, I really can't compare with anything. Especially unconsciously in his mind, he always resembles the previous scene where Gongyi stepped on the giant stone and fought with Nagato Geto Mazo, demonic statue of the outer path. Shocking, sensational, and quite invincible. His power has long been beyond the scope of ninjas, and there is a vague feeling that people can't understand. Anyway, Jiraiya understands that this Hokage in front of him, he is a very magical guy. Chapter 733. Madara and Nagato's Guess. Night came unnoticed. The bright moonlight sprinkled on the ground, like a layer of veil, but also like a layer of frost. On this quiet night, after being separated from Nara Shikaku and Tsunade and others, Gongyi left Konoha village. A few dodges, Gongyi came to the range of the palace leader. But in the next second, when Gongyi was about to move forward, his whole body immediately stopped in shape. With a smile on his handsome face, Gongyi turned his head. Is there anything else I want to say? Cough. At this time, as soon as Gongyi's voice fell, Jiraiya walked out. There is indeed something. It's not convenient to talk about it just now. Still with that iconic smile on her face, Jiraiya scratched her head and said, What's the matter? Gongyi seemed to have guessed something, and he laughed jokingly. If you just want to thank me for saving my life, and blame Conan for running away, then you don't have to. Haha, of course it's not these two things. When Gongyi said this, Jiraiya was even more embarrassed. What is it? You can tell me. Gongyi turned around and walked up to Jiraiya's eyes, showing a look of listening intently. I want to ask you about Uchiha Madara's transplant of Rinnegan to Nagato. The matter of transplanting Rinnegan to Nagato. As soon as Jiraiya finished speaking, Gongyi showed a sure face. Since Jiraiya didn't ask Nara Shikaku and Tsunade just now, it must be about Nagato and others before. Yeah, what the hell is going on? Jiraiya nodded, a look of confusion on her face. I can't be 100% sure about this kind of thing. Gong Yi opened his mouth and said slowly, but when I fought against him before, I found that Rinnegan's power was constantly consuming his vitality, which reminded me of the original information. Well, just a simple guess, it is indeed possible. As I said. Gong Yi, who was talking nonsense, didn't want a real answer to Jiraiya. Now that Nagato is dead, let's talk about it too much. What's the use of talking too much about some things, and it's not a good thing. Once you reveal too many secrets, you will be in a very bad position. Just guessing. Hearing Gong Yi finish saying this, Jiraiya's face showed a hint of disappointment. Originally Jiraiya thought Gong Yi, he might know some kind of secret about Nagato. But when he heard this, he felt as if he had thought about it. This is naturally just a guess. Shrugging, Gong Yi continued with a smile, otherwise, when Nagato was young, would I be able to check something by myself? At that time in Nagato, what was I doing, Dao still doesn't know. Smiling, Gong Yi stared at Jiraiya a little helplessly and said, I just wanted to save my life in the battlefield, and there will still be attention to whether Uchiha Madara is not. The reason why I said this before was just based on Anbu's information. So it is. Thinking for a while, Jiraiya nodded without showing too much suspicion. Such news is indeed shocking enough that Jiraiya will always take it to heart. In fact, if Gong Yi really knew too much, Jiraiya would actually doubt it. But it happens. Now that Gong Yi is like this, Jiraiya is still a little relieved. It's getting late, what else do you want to ask? Seeing Jiraiya standing silently, Gong Yi continued to ask with a smile. No more. Jiraiya came back to his senses, smiled and said, you should rest early, if it weren't for you and I would have been planted in a Megakure village today. You are the ninja of my Konoha village, and a very important core executive. It is my duty to save you. Not caring too much, Gong Yi responded with a faint smile, I just hope you don't forget your position in the future, after all, you are a ninja from Konoha village. Haha, it's natural. Jiraiya laughed and was about to leave. He naturally understood what Gong Yi meant. When Sarutobi Hiruzen was in office, he kept running around. Now this is going to work. Gong Yi's words are obvious, that is, tell yourself not to leave here easily. After all, the situation in the entire ninja world is serious, and if he leaves, it will only make Konoha village lose a formidable combat power. Well, at least Jiraiya at the moment, he still thinks so. Good. Nodding his head, Gong Yi didn't talk nonsense anymore, but immediately flashed away. Jiraiya rescued him this time, but only for the sake of the future of Konoha village. At the same time, it is also to kill Nagato along the way, and solve the calamity that will appear in the future. If not for these things, for purely personal reasons, Gong Yi wouldn't say anything to save him now. Jiraiya, to be honest, he is not trustworthy. As he has been deeply influenced by Sarutobi Hiruzen's will, it is difficult to draw him to him. Although it is possible to change his will, it is impossible to make him as loyal as Kimimaro and others. But for Gong Yi, it doesn't really matter at all. Beginning to the end, Jiraiya is not within the scope of Gong Yi's win. He just needs to stay in Konoha village honestly and act as a ninja force to shock the outside world. The strength of Konoha village is not enough just to have oneself. Excellent ninjas like Jiraiya are also a banner. Disguise. It should belong to the same, good mascot, as Kaharu Udatane and Homura Mitokado. Whether he submits to himself or not has long been unimportant to Gong Yi himself. After all, so far, after possessing the power of 10 tails, he no longer needs to rely on anyone. Even as long as Gong Yi thought about it, he felt that he had the ability to destroy and suppress the ninja continent. But that doesn't make any sense. What Gong Yi needs is the surrender of all people from the heart, not the mere suppression of force. This is also the reason why Gong Yi, he is planning carefully here, instead of directly opening the Six Paths mode and killing it. Gong Yi naturally doesn't want to do something that doesn't make any sense, and doesn't want to do it. Who? Seeing Jiraiya leave, Gangyi also came back to his senses. The matter on Nagato's side is over, and I can take advantage of a few days of spare time to help Sasuke. Chapter 734. Mysterious Kekkei Genkei. To help Sasuke is to help him fully open the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. After Sasuke's battle with Uchiha Itachi was over, he was kept in a closed state. Although this period of time, he also continued to go out to experience and perform tasks. The power of Sharingan is still rarely used. Obviously, Sasuke doesn't say anything about Uchiha Itachi now, but it's still there, he's still brooding. I didn't have time to pay attention to things on Sasuke's side before, but now it's different. He still has a few days of free time. Gangyi also decided to remove Sasuke's heart disease first. And transplanted Uchiha Itachi's eyes, completely fused with Sasuke, let him officially open the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, its power although Gangyi did not see it. But as the most noble and mysterious Kekkei Genkei of the Uchiha family, its role is not small. Evolved from the ordinary three-tomo Sharingan, Mangekyo Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The end point. It is even known to Rinnegan. Gangyi, with such a pair of 320 eyes, in the entire ninja world, there should be only Uchiha Madara. Mangekyo Sharingan, this advanced form after the fusion of two Mangekyo Sharingan, the evolution method is extremely harsh. The host itself has opened Mangekyo Sharingan, transplant another double Mangekyo Sharingan, and it can only be done between blood relatives within the Uchiha tribe. That's it. At this stage, only Uchiha Madara has succeeded. If Gangyi remembers correctly, Uchiha Madara is the first being to have the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan through the transplant of his brother Uchiha Izuna's Mangekyo Sharingan. In the ninja world, Gangyi actually has a lot of research on the Sharingan of the Uchiha family. In the beginning, Gangyi actually wanted to use the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan to enhance his power. But later, he gave up. After all, Sharingan is too weak to help Gangyi. And Mangekyo Sharingan is a double-edged sword, also known as the cursed Kekkei Genkei. This pair of eyes, only when they reach the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, in disguise, can actually be regarded as cracking the curse of Mangekyo Sharingan in use. The use of pupil art is not threatened by seals, and the eyes have eternal light. Otherwise, Uchiha Itachi is a good example of using such power for a long time. And it is precisely because of the power of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that Uchiha Madara is able to conquer all races. That is, under his leadership, the Uchiha clan reached its heyday. With the Senju clan headed by Senju Hashirama at that time, they were also called the two most powerful races in the ninja world. Of course, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Gangyi knows much more than that. It can even tame and control tailed beasts, as well as use the full-body Susanoo. These two abilities alone can be called very invincible. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan currently can't enhance the ability of himself, but it can enhance the ability of Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Sasuke has been completely controlled by himself at this moment, and he is waiting to be mastered by himself. That's it, Uchiha Sasuke's Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan can also be used by himself. Well, now basically Uchiha Sasuke is his most powerful force. After thinking about it, Uchiha Sasuke's eyes really need to be opened without delay. There is not much time left, so quickly perfecting the power in one's hands is the top priority. Kimimaro is now in Anbu, he has already risen, and his overall strength has already completely surpassed cage level. A normal shadow, it is absolutely impossible to defeat Kimimaro. And he has completely mastered the entire Anbu, so he doesn't have to worry about it. As for Hyuga Neji, his strength is even more different from before, and he also has the same power as Shadow. At the same time, because of his existence, the Hyuga family is rare and honest. They naturally know that the tree is big and attracts the wind, and they also know that Gangyi's character does not like the appearance of people who threaten him. Arranged by Gong Yi in the core high-level positions of Konoha village at this moment, they were not too presumptuous. According to Uzumaki Naruto, after his original special training, he cooperated with Mount Myoboku's Sage Mode, and his strength is equally powerful. After I went to hand over the skills of Master Kyubi, Nine Tails, to him, the character in the original book was completely formed. A hole, Uchiha Sasuke, is now missing here. Just transplant Uchiha Itachi's eyes and Uchiha Sasuke's eyes to merge. Then the new Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan will be officially born. Blinking, thinking of this, Gong Yi is also ready to go home first. Late, and now is not a good time, everything will be executed until tomorrow. Didn't take long, when Gong Yi had come into the house, he immediately hand seal with both hands and take the next shot. With a bang, white smoke appeared, and a small black snake looked at Gong Yi. Let Sasuke come to my office tomorrow. Looking down at the little black snake, Gong Yi whispered lightly. Cici Xiaohei seemed to understand Gong Yi's meaning. A ray of light appeared in his eyes, and immediately left here. The whole thing seems to have come to an end. Letting out a breath, Gong Yi was relieved. His nerves have been tense since what happened to Akatsuki. Although it is not that he is afraid of anyone, he must always arrange for his own plans. Now basically everything is over, and everything owes the east wind. With Uchiha Madara Obito, Conan will definitely not be spared, so naturally there is no need to worry. As for the Five Shadows Conference, Gong Yi can also be absolutely certain that it will be held soon. With the death of Akatsuki leader Nagato, Gong Yi has enough excuses to bring them all together. Then it's time to see Uchiha Obito's performance. The Fourth Ninja World War will start completely, and his plan will completely come to an end. As for those who have to worry about it, it's only Nara Shikaku's side. Although there is Koto Amatsukami of Uchiha Shisui, Gong Yi decided that it is best to let Nara Shikaku surrender himself first. After all, there are a lot of things involved after that. If it's just a puppet, it doesn't mean much. Well, after thinking about it, Chen Fan is not worried. He is confident enough to get Nara Shikaku to agree and help his plan. Chapter 735. Enlighten Sasuke. The next day, early in the morning. Above the cloudless sky, the warm sun shines down. All the people are still busy, day after day, repeating everything. As always, in order to survive, each other is fighting hard. Teacher Gong Yi, you are looking for me. Sasuke Uchiha was standing in Hokage's office at the moment, looking at Gong Yi respectfully and asking. Sasuke, who is still practicing outside, immediately returned to Konoha village after receiving news from Gong Yi last night. Over time, Sasuke Uchiha and Uchiha have a lot of respect for Gong Yi. Every growth he has experienced, everything he has experienced, there is a figure of Gong Yi. That's it, he didn't even know it, as if he saw his brother Uchiha Itachi. My own teacher, Sasuke felt at this moment, should be the last person who can have a trace of family affection. He felt that in this world, apart from Gong Yi, he wouldn't have anyone to trust. Well, for Gong Yi, Uchiha Sasuke has long been unconditional and completely obedient. Well, there is indeed one thing. Seeing Sasuke walking in, Gong Yi closed the documents on the table, looked at him and smiled and asked, "But I haven't seen you recently, how is your practice going?" There is nothing wrong with everything. Sasuke didn't have a frosty face, but smiled and replied, "Mr. Gong Yi, after your task is completed, I will stay in the back mountain to practice." There's nothing wrong with it. Nodding, Gong Yi didn't talk nonsense, but went straight to the topic. By the way, the second letter from Itachi, have you read it? I have seen it. Silence for half a second. Uchiha Sasuke did not hide. It's about the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. That's right. It seems that Itachi has this plan a long time ago. Hearing Sasuke Uchiha finish speaking, Gong Yi's face gradually became serious, and said lightly, "So Sasuke, I think you should also accept Itachi's gift well. If you keep running away, it will only make all of Itachi's preparations in vain." When Gong Yi found out about Uchiha Itachi and the content of the second letter he handed to Uchiha Sasuke, he was not surprised. Because Gong Yi can actually think of it for a long time, since Uchiha Itachi has decided to sacrifice himself, come and go to fulfill Uchiha Sasuke. Then he will never, to hide the secret of Sharingan. Today, when I heard Uchiha Sasuke finish speaking, it was actually true. The day he left Konoha village, Itachi seemed to have a high level of consciousness. I have to say, for Konoha is a good ninja, and for Sasuke is also a good brother. At the same time, Uchiha Itachi also helped himself in disguise and cultivated a terrifying guy. Mr. Gong Yi, what do you mean? Uchiha Sasuke's face at this moment gradually revealed a complex color. The current Sasuke still doesn't know how to describe Itachi. After Itachi died, Uchiha Sasuke actually used Sharingan very little. There was still a hurdle in his heart that he couldn't get past. I've heard Kimimaro say it before, but you can't do it in your current state. Seen through Sasuke's heart long ago, Gong Yi smiled. Whether it is Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan or Mangekyo Sharingan, this is the will Itachi entrusted to you. Right now, Sasuke, what you need most is keep Itachi's will well and pass it on. Seeing Sasuke's face gradually revealing a hint of enlightenment, Gong Yi didn't stop. You should look at your eyes, and you should really open them. This is the best proof to live in place of Itachi. Knocking on the table, Gong Yi said solemnly, "So now everything you see doesn't belong to you alone, but it also belongs to Itachi." Mr. Gong Yi. Uchiha Sasuke trembled slightly with Gong Yi Bu. Since the Uchiha Itachi incident, no one has actually enlightened Sasuke. After all, it was his own brother who died, and he had been misunderstood like this all the time, so it was inevitable that he would have a pimple in his heart. At the same time, although Sasuke Uchiha didn't say anything, he still felt guilty in his heart. That's how it was, so he kept going to the horns, and spared himself back and forth. But today is different. With Gong Yi's enlightenment, the current Uchiha Sasuke seems to have figured it out. Indeed, as Gong Yi said, now Itachi has entrusted his power to himself. Then you should not hide it completely, but use it. Only in this way, you can live up to Itachi's expectations for yourself. No matter how you think about it, now that Gong Yi's words are finished, Sasuke Uchiha has a feeling that he sees the moon when he sees the moon. His previous pair of dull black pupils seemed to burst into light at this moment. He suddenly understood. What he needs to do is to inherit Itachi's will. Then help Gong Yi as much as possible to complete his due mission. It looks like Sasuke, you have already figured it out. Seeing Sasuke's appearance, Gong Yi's face gradually showed a gratified smile. He didn't waste much time and energy, he completely told Sasuke what he said. This situation is what Gong Yi is most willing to see. Gong Yi, who takes time very seriously, doesn't want to waste a long time just here. However, Sasuke did not let himself down, and quickly made up the meaning of all his words. Yes. Sasuke nodded heavily, and a rare seriousness suddenly appeared on his face. I understand now. His released hands clenching his fists, Sasuke's pair of dark eyes began to turn into Yuhi, his third tomo immediately. Turning slowly, as you said, Mr. Gong Yi, I really shouldn't run away now, but live with Itachi's legacy. Sasuke, what you think now is naturally the most correct choice. Gong Yi stood up and walked to Sasuke's side. He patted Sasuke on the shoulder and continued with a smile, in this case, I will transplant Itachi's eyes to you. In the days to come, you will take everything Itachi has, live well, and fight well. Give Itachi's eyes to me. That's right. Gong Yi nodded, smiled and said lightly, since you have understood the process of opening Mangekyo Sharingan's eyes, you must also understand what I mean. Chapter 736. Eye Transplantation. Well, Itachi has said it very clearly in the letter before. Sasuke Uchiha nodded without showing any doubt. Not to mention that Sasuke has 100% trust in Gongyi. Just by virtue of the relationship between Uchiha Itachi and Gongyi, Gongyi should have the right to know this secret. And Sasuke is also very clear that Itachi is cautious by nature, and likes to leave a lot of means in case of accidents. News of this eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is a very important matter. For the entire ninja continent, there is only one Uchiha clan left. Uchiha Itachi would definitely not be relieved if he just relied on this letter. After all, once this kind of thing is lost, what awaits you next is the secret of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan lost forever, and no one will know it again. Well, Sasuke actually thinks this way, and his heart will be completely clear and understood. Teacher Gongyi is in front of him. Since he was so good with Itachi, Uchiha Itachi will naturally inform him about the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. After all, even himself, Uchiha Itachi was entrusted to Gongyi back then. No matter how much you think about it, Sasuke can't have the slightest doubt about Gongyi now. Well, since you already understand, then I will do it myself and transplant Itachi's eyes for you. Gongyi nodded, and didn't go into too much nonsense. Gongyi did not explain that he knew the secret of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Although he does not possess the ability to read minds, it can be known that Sasuke will have countless reasons to excuse himself. If I had the skill to explain something, it would be a bit superfluous. Okay, Teacher Gongyi. Hearing this, Sasuke's face showed a touch of excitement. Now Sasuke naturally knows that being Gongyi's disciple has many benefits. With the transplanted eye alone is enough to see. Although there are many medical ninjas in Konoha village, there are also many excellent ones. But in my own situation, in disguise, it is also of great importance, and there is no room for a little mistake. If Gongyi personally took action, then Sasuke would be very happy to see it. Well, just thinking of this, Sasuke is even more grateful to Gongyi. After all, Gongyi, as a fifth-generation Hokage, is a ninja who can suppress the entire ninja world, and he has rarely shot. Now that Gongyi can make another shot and use superb medical ninjutsu, it seems that he is the only one. Since you have agreed, then I will bring the eyes of Itachi seal. Nodding his head, without too much expression on his face, Gongyi said slowly, then we will help you perform the transplant in the afternoon. Time flies. 2 days later. Rain was pouring down. The heavy dark clouds are still there at the moment, the sky above the rain. The whistling of the wind continued, as if weeping for the dead soul. Looking around, the entire Omegakure village is in disarray. Taking the central core as the point, all the surrounding areas are full of deep pits. The towering buildings before had disappeared completely. If anyone from outside Omegakure village came here, it would be unbelievable. None of them would think that a village once existed here. Birds looked down, only the outer 100 meters range, and a few buildings were not damaged. Other than that, the village of Omegakure has disappeared. However, although all the buildings were destroyed, the foundation of the village was completely lost. Of the entire Omegakure village did not suffer any damage. As long as there are people, the building will still be rebuilt. Konan is standing quietly on an intact building nearby. Before that, she used her own paper camouflage to successfully deceive Gongyi to leave here. But after not going very far, she waited for Gongyi to leave and return to Omegakure village. Konan is not nostalgic here, but simply wants to get back Yahiko's body. Although Yahiko's body, he has been destroyed in the previous fight with Gongyi. But Konan still doesn't want him, and the last bones are buried here. Well, so she also came back with a huge risk. But this meeting, with her coming back, has gone through 2 days, but she feels a little puzzled. She suddenly had an illusion, as if she had inadvertently made her think that Gong Yi had deliberately let her go. When this idea came to her mind, a bad premonition suddenly appeared in Conan's heart. Because no matter how he thought about it, Conan felt that Gong Yi had no reason to let him go, but rather killed himself. Since he can clearly understand his own abilities. Then I am a huge scourge to the whole Konoha village. At the same time, anyone with any bit of common sense would not easily let go of their enemies. And the 5th generation of Hokage Gong Yi, this very shrewd guy, how could such a mistake happen to be normal? There must be an opposite reason. This makes Conan actually have to be cautious. Especially, she has to be more careful. Uchiha Madara. This guy, after Gong Yi finished talking, Conan already had a little guess in his heart. After a short preparation, the reason why Conan didn't leave was because he had already realized it. As long as Uchiha Madara or Gong Yi, whoever the two of them wanted to come here, would be detrimental to Nagato. She already has a solution and a solution. The reason why she didn't leave after taking Yahiko's body is that Conan is also using herself as bait. Now she wanted to see if it was really what Gong Yi said, or what Uchiha Madara described. Standing on the high platform in the open air, looking at the Omegakure village that has become a deep pit ahead, Conan's face is surprisingly calm at this moment. Allowing the icy rain to hit him, Conan didn't care. As if this is the only way at this moment, can Conan seem to find the feeling that he is still alive. At this moment, a chakra force appeared immediately. In front of Conan, the air that was supposed to be invisible and intangible was gradually twisted. Immediately, a man in a black robe walked out. He has yui-colored auspicious clouds embroidered on it, and a wooden Uzumaki-shaped orange mask on his face. The pupils that are exposed alone make him look very peculiar. Well, he just came back from the border of the ninja continent, Uchiha Obito. Otherwise, block the collection of IP. Chapter 737. Conan and Obito. What are you looking for? Conan stood behind Uchiha Obito, looked at him quietly and said. Was no expression on the cold and frosty face. There is just endless killing intent. Uchiha Obito came here, combined with Gong Yi's original statement, the intention has long been very obvious. Conan couldn't believe it. This guy was just here to console himself. You put Nagato's body there. Back to Conan's Uchiha Obito, he looked back and asked indifferently. Right now, he doesn't see the slightest bit of joy or sorrow. He's not here. As soon as Uchiha Obito finished speaking, Conan sneered inwardly. Sure enough. It seems that who is the 5th Hokage in Konoha village, he really knows more than himself and Nagato. But in any case, Conan naturally couldn't let Nagato's Rinnegan be taken away. Gong Yi no. Okay, this one in front of me. Uchiha Madara. He is also still not good. Next second. This thought in mind, Conan has slowly closed his eyes. Hula this time, I saw that her whole person had begun to disintegrate gradually, becoming a piece of white paper. The blink of an eye, Conan disappeared completely, she completely turned into a blank sheet of paper. She did not attack Uchiha Obito, but all folded automatically, turning into sheets of paper butterflies and flying into the distance. Humph! Uchiha Obito snorted coldly when he saw Conan pretending to play tricks here, immediately. Activating Kamui also followed. Sea, turbulent. With the continuous rain falling from the sky, the smooth water surface is constantly stirred up with ripples. Because of the rain, the whole sea also rose with the tide, and it was a little turbulent. Here, the village of Omegakure has been completely left, and only the dark shadows of the towering buildings can be seen in the distance. The paper butterflies in the sky gradually flew here at this moment, and then slowly began to piece together into Conan's appearance. She stood silently on the water, letting the sea water around her beat, and at this moment, she stared straight ahead with a delicate face. Uchiha Obito, who released Kamui, also appeared in front of her. Rinnegan. Standing in front of Conan, Uchiha Obito said coldly, "It seems that you don't want to confess where Nagato is." "Where exactly is Nagato? I naturally won't tell you such things." Conan's body was tense, and his eyes were killing. "I have been waiting for a long time, just want to end your life. I won't show mercy because you used to be my servant. Akatsuki, you won't forgive betrayal, you know that." Hearing this, Uchiha Obito did not become angry, but asked in a gradually cold voice, "I want to ask you a question, why even an excellent member like you wants to betray me? Before you and Nagato originally agreed to my Moon Eye plan." Uchiha Obito wearing the Uzumaki mask makes people unable to see his expression. Is it because the 5 generations of Hokage of Konoha village have been smashed the courage before? Killed the guts. Conan heard Uchiha Obito's sarcasm, her face still unchanged. "He just died a little later than you. Kill you now, and the 5th Hokage will also be impossible to run. Even though you have already betrayed me, you are still so arrogant and wearing this dress." Seeing that Conan had raised his hand, and the whole person was about to release the attack, Uchiha Obito was still there. He opened his mouth and said, "It seems that you still have some nostalgia for Akatsuki. Now if you give Nagato to me, I can still give you a chance to kill the 5th Hokage." Hehe, Akatsuki was originally founded by Yahiko. The Yuhi cloud in this dress symbolizes the war that brought blood to the ninja village. Unable to show a sarcastic face, Conan said unmoved, "If you say the real betrayal is only you, to put it bluntly, Akatsuki was only stolen by you. This dress represents us, it doesn't really belong to you." Half of Conan's face has begun to turn into white paper, and his entire body is about to disintegrate. Now a pair of eyes staring at Uchiha Obito in front of her, and Rinnegan is also a ninja from a megacure village. Nagato got it after opening his eyes, and it doesn't belong to you either. His eyes are the treasure of this country and this village. Whoosh whoosh. As Conan's voice just fell, several paper shurikens immediately blasted out. They headed towards Uchiha Obito ahead in pieces, very fast. Uchiha Obito, standing in front of Conan, has been silent. Didn't say a word at the moment, just stood there quietly and looked at him. Although the fierce attack had come, he did not dodge in the slightest. The next moment, when Conan's paper escape attack has come, but they all completely penetrated the past, did not cause any damage to Uchiha Obito. You may have misunderstood 2 things. Uchiha Obito was calm from beginning to end, he still didn't rush to do it, just said in a deep voice, "It was me who prompted Yahiko to create Akatsuki. Besides, the pupils that were exposed alone were already incomparable to Yuhi at this moment, and the 3 tomo on them were clearly visible. It was also me who gave Rinnegan to Nagato." Yes. Conan, who was ready to unleash the attack at all costs, immediately. His face changed and he stopped. What Uchiha Obito said at the moment, invisibly, overlapped with what the 5 generations of Hokage said before. Her heart couldn't help sinking, and her whole person showed a kind of disbelief. Could it be that all of this is really from the beginning to the end? The opening of Nagato's conspiracy, Yahiko's founding of Akatsuki, and all these things after that. I can't imagine it, and Conan can't imagine it. She feels that the 3 of her are like being puppets hanging by people. A child, I have been living a life arranged by others. So I hope you can understand. Looking at Conan's appearance, Uchiha Obito sneered. To be fair, I should be hoping that he will give it back to me. Forget it, in my opinion, you're just a little girl with an empty head. And now, just a little girl who knows where Nagato Rinnegan is. Uchiha Obito spread his hands, his tone became extremely casual, without any tension. It's useless to talk too much, let's catch you first. Head, Uchiha Obito's Sharingan is shining bright at this moment. Chapter 738. 600 billion detonating symbols. Boom boom boom. Huge explosions keep coming. A short time, Conan and Uchiha Obito fought fiercely for several rounds. Conan, who was already out of breath, was completely at a disadvantage, and it seemed that he couldn't hold on for long. Next second. On that determined face, Conan showed a hint of determination. Raised her hand towards Uchiha Obito in front of her, and immediately shouted, "In a world without light, flowers will only wither." Yes. Uchiha Obito, who had already broken half of his mask, and Sharingan, who was standing alone, widened, and his face that had never changed finally showed horror. Whoa, whoa, I can see that he can't stand still at the moment, there is still seawater under his feet, and there are rough waves around him. The sea now has all turned into stacks of paper. Endless, mighty, this seems to be able to catch the eye except white paper, there is nothing else at all. As you can see, now all this is not over at all. This can be tens of meters deep. Looking down at the sea, the bottom is still covered with white paper. Of the paper mountain and paper sea makes people tremble with fear just by looking at it. No, Uchiha Obito is clearly visible, the symbol is still drawn on the white paper, and the black, boom, is written on it. Word. Where are they blank sheets, these? Densely packed, can't see the end, can't see the low. All are detonating charms. Even at this moment Uchiha Obito, he was terrified and could not imagine how the Conan in front of him was using how many detonators. Hugh wants to escape again. Conan's face turned pale, a rare madness in his pale face. A full 600 billion detonators. If Gong Yi stood here, he would definitely shake his head and sigh. In addition to lamenting Conan's wealth, this guy really almost exploded the finale at once. Not to mention Uchiha Obito, even if Gong Yi is facing these 600 billion detonators, he will never feel good. One or two detonators may not have such a huge impact. But dozens, hundreds, thousands of them can already start to threaten people's lives. And this is 600 billion. Just you can see that it is covered with sheets of sea, and you can see it completely by disguising it so that no water leaks. How spectacular and shocking they are when they begin to emerge. It's something that can't be described in words. Damn. Uchiha Obito couldn't help scolding whereabouts. A Sharingan of Yuhi, an orangutan, kept releasing Kamui. But at the moment it seems to be invalid, not at all, instead the detonating charms around him are constantly sticking to him. It seems that your time-space movement has failed. Conan floats in the sky, watching the desperate Uchiha Obito. I didn't do anything before I betrayed. As you absorb yourself, the body has to materialize, and at a much slower rate than when you absorb other things. If I hadn't interrupted the space-time movement and switched to penetrating explosions, maybe it would have been really bad. Uchiha Obito, who was still falling, gradually calmed down, and he couldn't help but murmured while looking at the dense detonators around him. This is the 600 billion detonating charms I have prepared for you, enjoy it. Floating above the sky, Conan's face showed a hint of crazy excitement. It can explode continuously for 10 minutes without interruption, and you must not be able to escape. The voice fell, and Conan also lowered his arms. At this moment, all the detonating charms began to burn. The sound of bang bang kept coming out, and the whole sea began to be deafening. There was only a small amount of seawater in the piece, and they were immediately evaporated by the sky-high explosion. The endless white fog, they vented around immediately, covering the entire area. As you can see, everything in front of you now seems to no longer exist. Next second, Conan also immediately broke out of the state of dance of the Shikigami. Falling on the water, Conan secretly said panting, I didn't expect these, it would consume such a huge amount of chakra. But fortunately, it seems that he has been PFF'd. Before Conan could think again, a cold feeling came up in his stomach. Then there is endless pain and the passing of life. How is it possible? Conan's face showed surprise, and the whole person seemed to be in disbelief. Uchiha Madara, who had just been devoured by 600 billion detonating talismans, did not die. Yuhi's blood kept dripping, but it was constantly diluted by the light rain falling from the sky. The smell of blood is gone, and the rain is still there, it's falling. It seems to be crying for the dead, and it seems to be crying for the poor man. Konoha Village, Ninja Hospital. Standing in a separate room, Gongyi stood here quietly. He didn't care about Conan and Uchiha Obito at the moment. On his handsome face at the moment, a pair of dark and deep eyes are quietly looking forward. Sasuke is sitting here now, with white cloth tied around his eyes. Over the course of a few days, everything went smoothly on Gongyi's side. Gradually sketching a smile, Gongyi raised his hand and slowly took off the white cloth that bound Sasuke's eyes. Mr. Gongyi. Slowly raising his head, Sasuke opened his eyes. Next second, a pair of black eyeballs changed immediately until a hexagram pattern was constructed. Immediately, the whole house can clearly feel the power brought by this Zeon Eye. Although it has no influence on Gongyi at all, it has to be said that the power of Eternal Mangekyo is indeed very powerful. It looks like a success, Sasuke. With the smile on his face undiminished, Gongyi looked at Sasuke and said lightly. Without wasting my time these few days, I can feel that Sasuke's whole person has completely changed. The opening of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan completely changed Sasuke. At the same time, as I have long been able to master the combat power of the master, the strengthening of Uchiha Sasuke will be of great help to my future plans. Especially now that the master has the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, then Gongyi can also rest assured that Sasuke will help him. Got things done. In any case, Sasuke's strength is now only good for himself, not bad. Nice. Patting Sasuke on the shoulder, Gongyi said with a smile, now you can replace Itachi's share and live well. Chapter 739. Shocking Ninja Omura. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, it's really amazing. Standing in front of Sasuke, Gongyi looked at Sasuke's eyes carefully. The pattern of the six-pointed star was extremely complicated, and a tyrannical power fluctuation was faintly emitted from it. Although he can't threaten himself at all, in the entire ninja world, it is very terrifying for other ninjas. Mr. Gongyi, I seem to feel very different. Touching his hands around his eyes, Sasuke looked at Gongyi and murmured. Itachi once told me that this Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is the most mysterious and powerful Kekkei Genkai of the Uchiha family. Gongyi pretended to be reminiscing, and said lightly, it evolved from the ordinary three-tomo Sharingan, and then Mangekyo Sharingan. This pair of pupils in it contains a powerful destructive power. And it retains the full capabilities of Itachi Mangekyo without the side effects of blindness, and at the same time, the burden on the body is greatly reduced. Bowing his head, Gongyi slowly continued to speak, so these eyes will be of great help to you, Sasuke. Retains all of Itachi's abilities. Sasuke was a little surprised when he heard this. Sasuke doesn't actually know 100% about something. Well, Itachi said this at the beginning, but the real me doesn't know Akatsuki. It takes you, Sasuke, to dig and discover it slowly. Nodding, Gongyi didn't say much. Now that Sasuke has just successfully opened the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, he only needs to say what he said. As for other things, Sasuke will naturally be able to figure it out completely over time. It's useless to say too much here. Gongyi naturally didn't reveal too much. At the same time, when Sasuke heard this, he also showed a thought. But soon, he also said excitedly, I understand Teacher Gongyi. Sasuke didn't show a bit of coldness, and then said, now I have very strong strength, and I can completely help Teacher Gongyi to perform tasks. The knot in his heart has been untied before, and he has obtained such a powerful pair of pupils again, and his whole person is vaguely excited. No matter how you think about it, at this moment, you have gained unprecedented power. And the one who brought all of this to himself, besides Uchiha Itachi, there is Gongyi in front of him. I will live for the dead Itachi's share, but at the same time, I will also serve Gongyi, who is alive at the moment. Allegiance for life. At this moment, Sasuke unknowingly has begun to feel that his goal in this life is only in front of him. The Gong Yi is gone. Well, but this is not the time to carry out a mission. Gong Yi smiled and said, just now. After planting, you need to rest for 2 days. I see, Teacher Gong Yi. Sasuke nodded and responded immediately. He still obeyed Gong Yi very much, and almost never refuted anything head-on. Didn't take long, and now when Gong Yi briefly said a few words to Sasuke Uchiha, it was immediately left. Sasuke's transplant of Sharingan is over, and it doesn't make much sense to stay here. The plan has come to an end, and it is time to move on to the next step. At the same time, when it's almost time, Sasuke needs to inform himself. Such a tyrannical eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Sasuke is currently the strongest fighting force of his master. His appearance is very helpful for his future plans. Gong Yi actually never thought that he would actually make the two protagonists completely master. From childhood to adulthood, Naruto and Sasuke were also deeply influenced by their own will. Thinking of this, Gong Yi also drew a strange smile. So far, things are going well. White horses pass by, time flies. Blink of an eye, a week has passed. The entire ninja continent has begun to receive news one after another. Pain, the leader of Akatsuki, was killed on the spot by Hokage Gong Yi, the 5th generation of Konoha village. The whole village of Omegakure was in a mess, completely turned into the ruins of the deep pit of Nuoda. Hearing this information, all the ninja Omura were shocked one after another. After getting the news for the first time, everyone couldn't believe it at all. In fact, the relationship between Akatsuki and their ninja village is still in a very delicate state. They didn't dare to take it lightly, they just kept sending spies to inquire about the news. But this time, Gong Yi actually left Konoha village and killed himself in Omegakure village. Of course, after their respective spies came back, all the shadows frowned. The village of Omegakure is indeed in ruins at this moment, and the spies from the villages are speechless looking at the deep pit of Nanuo. For them, this seems a little unacceptable. From their point of view, how could it be that the ninja continent, where the ninjas had just stabilized for a few days, who could create such power damage, was once again taken as a turbulent situation? However, with the death of Akatsuki's leader, everyone did not feel safe. After all, the tailed beast at this moment is still being controlled by Akatsuki Master. They can't really figure out the specific things, they are all silently thinking here. Now the situation is tense, there is no one from the ninja village, they choose to take the initiative. This matter, you often lose the most and gain the least. These shrewd ninja villages, everyone is here to stand still, waiting for news. Who cares that the tailed beast was caught before? In fact, although they were anxious, they were not the first to do it. They are still very afraid of Akatsuki. No matter, it is certain, Gong Yi has eliminated their leader now, but still does not act rashly. It is still Ninja Omura, and what they think is naturally not based on their own interests. Like Sarutobi Hiruzen at the beginning, they are all thinking of the interests of the whole village. Real guy like Gong Yi doesn't exist at all. The members of Akatsuki, but also personally killing the leader of Akatsuki. Such domineering behavior was already considered to be taking the initiative to protect the tailed beasts of their own village. Because only in this way can the passive situation be eliminated and become their master's first opportunity. I have to say, Gong Yi's incident this time has spread, and the rest of the ninja village are also secretly applauding. After all, Akatsuki was arrogant and domineering, and it did make the ninja villages of the ninja world feel afire. Chapter 740. Morning, everything is silent. The bright sky, the night was about to disappear, and the morning light from Akatsuki swayed down and illuminated the surroundings. Konoha village, inside the Hokage office. Right after Sasuke's affairs were settled, Gong Yi was busy with preparations for Konoha village. The war orphans who have been adopted before have also grown up one after another. Those ninjas who have no sense of belonging to the village and waste resources have been assigned to the death squad of the 4th Ninja World War by Gong Yi. For such a ninja, Gong Yi naturally does not need to be reserved. Village adopted them and sent them resources to train them. If they still had the same attitude towards the village, Gong Yi would naturally not feed them. After all the sorting, investigation and monitoring, at least 5,000 ninjas have been added. Of the death squad this time is the felon ninja who are all imprisoned in the Konoha village. They exist for the war, and for everything that follows. There are 10,000 ninjas in total, all of which Gong Yi is ready to abandon. As for the rest of the tens of thousands of ninja powers, all of them were almost brainwashed by Gong Yi and allegiance to Konoha village. Those tens of thousands of ninjas are the trump card to unify the ninja continent. The village of Master Konoha, in just a few years, the ninja power has been increased to a lot by himself. A large amount of capital investment and countless support releases have made Gong Yi begin to see benefits. Otherwise, with the ninja reserves of Konoha village at the time, it is estimated that there are only more than 20,000. You must know that the ninja power of a normal ninja village actually does not exceed 20,000. But at the moment, the Konoha village where Gong Yi is the master is already as high as 30,000. At the same time, this does not include the 10,000 ninjas that Gong Yi is going to use as a death squad. Now if the hidden strength of Konoha village is revealed, it will definitely shock the entire ninja continent. After all, in recent years, the Konoha village has not been visible, and they would never have thought that the Konoha village would have been developed by Gong Yi to such a degree. A lot of emotion. Gong Yi turned around at this moment and quietly looked out the floor-to-ceiling window. The entire street has been enlarged countless times, and the surrounding houses have been raised one after another. I can see, the entire village of Konoha has also spread out for hundreds of kilometers, all covered with buildings. The current Konoha village, known as the largest village in the ninja continent, fully deserves its name. Has grown to this level in just a few years, which is something that all the other ninja villages can't imagine. Even the former Mizukage Terumime of Kurigakure village and Keizukage Gara of Sunagakure village were a little unbelievable when they came. After all, to be able to develop like this, in addition to consuming resources and money, it still requires considerable courage. At least they don't think they can develop the village like this. Well, in the end the thinking is completely different. Gong Yi, as a transmigrator, naturally doesn't think the same as them. Of the entire ninja continent are also basically sticking to the rules. And Gong Yi is different. Now that he is a master, he naturally needs to develop vigorously. That is, because of the decision I made at the beginning, it seems to be wrong now. At least the current Konoha village has brought benefits to itself. And the money invested in the past has started to pay off one after another. Lord Hokage. Soon, at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared. I saw an Anbu member wearing an Anbu black robe and an animal mask standing in front. How is it Kimimaro? Seeing his appearance, Gong Yi regained his senses and looked at him again. Has got his place now. Kimimaro nodded and responded immediately to Gong Yi. Have found him. Yes, Lord Hokage. Oh, not bad. Hearing Kimimaro's words, Gong Yi raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. All the plans are going well so far. At least so far, there hasn't been any offset at all. Lord Hokage, do you want me to accompany you there? Kimimaro looked up at Gong Yi and asked. No, I can go by myself. Shaking his head, he closed the documents on the table. He's just a small character, and he doesn't need to go to war. But everything is just a surface, Kimimaro, don't be fooled. Gong Yi seemed to know what Kimimaro was going to say. He immediately interrupted laughing. It's all just superficial. Kimimaro was stunned for a moment, but nodded quickly, and his face behind the mask showed enlightenment. I see, Lord Hokage. Seeing that Kimimaro was very clear, Gong Yi, face also showed admiration. Now is Kimimaro, who was raised by him since childhood. His style of doing things is exactly the same as his own. Almost a lot of tasks do not need to be fully informed, and Kimimaro will also complete them perfectly. At the same time, because he has been placed in Anbu for a long time, his whole personality is also what Gongyi likes the most. Just be loyal to yourself, no matter right or wrong, I'll just follow your own arrangements. Yep, that's enough for now. As for the rest, Gongyi doesn't care. After all, his entire current plan is the core, and at the same time, the most important. Time is fast. Gongyi has left Konoha village. Acting Hiraishin's art, he has left the fire country. Almost in the blink of an eye, he had come to the border. After getting the news from Kimimaro's side, Gongyi has already left immediately. He is going to meet next is also the Black Hand who promotes the future plan. Uchiha Obito. After counting the time, Uchiha Obito should have obtained Nagato's Rinnegan now. At the same time, he should also be preparing for the next plan. In this case, you can start to find him and discuss cooperation. Well, now the last three-tailed beasts on the entire ninja continent are still here. As long as he Uchiha Obito wants to resurrect Ten Tails, as long as he Uchiha Obito wants to complete the Moon Eye project, then he must bow his head to himself. And he is still mastering the most important thing. Uchiha Obito can't find any reason to refuse. This time, his master has a lot of chips, and Uchiha Obito has no chance at all. If Gongyi decides to join forces with Uchiha Obito, if he doesn't fight an unprepared battle, it is absolutely impossible to go straight ahead like this. Everything, naturally, is all in his master. The art of Hiraishin is activated again. Thoughts. Gongyi also walked towards Uchiha Obito's place.